Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
For the upcoming right-hander, brake 30 meters later and ease off the pressure.
Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap times? Are you tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Alla, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. VRS data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today.
You know, the straights are unbelievably long. The first time you come here, everyone tells you, you know, you'll be flat out 6th gear for 20 seconds. First time I was here, I lifted halfway down the straight. I didn't believe that it was still going. I was waiting to brake, and I was back on the power. And the Porsche curves are extremely fast and extremely narrow, so it's a tricky track. And you know, every year I've come here, you learn something new every time.
Le Mans is so fast. Wherever you accelerate, you are over 150 miles per hour. Going there, I realized everything you have done before was nothing.
A very good evening and welcome to Evolution Sim Racing. This is the European GT Championship from round 6 in Le Mans. I'm James Bostock. I'm going to be in the comms booth tonight with Dara Thacker. Are you there, Dara? And can you hear me okay?
Yes, I am. I can hear you perfectly well as well, James. I'm looking forward to this race. It wouldn't really feel like June if we didn't really have a long race around Le Mans, would it? So this should be a cracker.
It absolutely should. It absolutely should. So, yeah, thanks for everybody joining us in the stream already. And as per usual, true to form, Dara and James have had a few technical glitches tonight already. So we've got a few health glitches going on. And we've got a few technical glitches. So if you could let us know in the chat if the volumes are okay. We've had to change Dara's volume settings before we've come on, and unfortunately we didn't have time to test that out. And also I've been suffering all week, Dara, with a flu since last Saturday, so I probably sound a little bit croaky, and surprise surprise, you might be ending up doing a little bit of the heavy lifting tonight.
That's all right. It's going to be a long race. We'll find things to talk about. People in chat who are tuning in may have to get involved as well. It's all part of the fun, isn't it? But it is going to be one of those races, I think, where it's going to be one for the long haul. Le Mans being such a long circuit means that we're going to see a lot of drivers being quite narrow on the strategy. There isn't going to be too much to play around with. It's not going to be possible to play around with it too much if you're looking to extend some of these stints to the end of the fuel tank's limit. But yeah, I think this stage of the season as well, we're right in the midst of it. Of course, half of it is done. We're into the second half now, and this is really where drivers are looking to position themselves well going into the final few races.
Yeah, and this is the second of our 90-minute races tonight. So I think we if I remember correctly, we learned a few things about the 60% fuel capacity at the last time. So we know that the drivers are going to definitely have to make 2 stops here. So, and I'm just looking at my timing screen now, and it looks like we've got a fantastic turnout of about 45 drivers in total across the 2 classes. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this plays out. Obviously, being Le Mans, I think everybody's got some experience of Le Mans doing the kind of longer endurance races, and when it's on the calendar, it always brings out the good attendances, shall we say. So, yeah. Really looking forward to that. So we've got We got Rob Mackay joining us in the chat, straight back from his hot lap in France. So Rob must have caught the ferry and not had any delays. So thanks for joining us, Rob. We have turned Dara up a little bit, so please let us know if Dara needs turning up some more. And if you need me silencing, then please let me know, because that will be an absolute pleasure tonight with the way I've felt all week. So, but without further ado, the show must go on, as they say. So, the season calendar. So, here we are at Le Mans, yet the second of our 90-minute races. That's going to be keeping us busy for the next at least hour and a half, Dara, and I think we can relax a little bit more on the 90-minute race than that sprint format. And then in 2 weeks' time, we go to Catalonia in Spain, and we do have a little surprise for everybody. Unfortunately, I am not available for the 15th, so a fantastic commentator has very kindly agreed to step in, who is Mr. Chaz Draycott. So everybody can be absolutely delighted with a change of scenery in the comms booth for 2 weeks' time on Sunday, the 15th of June. So that will be the first time that we get to see Dara and Chaz team up, and I know that some of the drivers will be really looking forward to that one. I certainly will, for sure. We then move to Portimao for round 8 for the final of the 90-minute races, and then we have our penultimate round at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, round 9, and rounding out the season with Silverstone round 10. One thing I just want to point out tonight is that the original sim time was scheduled to be 10 p.m, but due to us wanting to have a sunset style race, we did bring that forward to 9 p.m, and it will be static time. So it looks like we're going to get a kind of evening stroke dusk race tonight. So hopefully we should be able to see everything on stream nice and clearly. So this track, Dara, I don't know what your thoughts are, but certainly for multiclass racing, it's got to be a bit less stressful than some of the others we've had recently, don't you think?
Yeah, wider, longer, which means you're not going to be seeing the cars as many times. It is going to be that little bit easier on the drivers, and such long straights. I mean, really, from Tertre Rouge at turn number 8 on the far left-hand side of that track map, all the way really to the bottom right, turns 21 and 22, that's Indianapolis and Arnage. Realistically, you've got a couple of heavy braking zones, and then your foot's flat to the floor for a good 2.5 minutes. So this is going to be a lot of, for the drivers, quite a lot of nothing. Most of that time that you're going to win or lose compared to the other drivers is going to be between those Porsche curves starting at turn 23 and Tertre Rouge, which is turn 8. So that bottom left-hand side of that track map is where we're going to see a lot of that important time loss and time gain. That'll be, a lot of it down to qualifying. But for the rest of the track, a lot of it is playing games, trying to play cat and mouse. Can you make an overtake and hold on to the positions if you make it earlier on the straights, or do you wait until Indianapolis, which is a difficult place to get something done? So I think a lot of this is going to come down to experience for some of the drivers. Those who know their way around this circuit are going to kind of know exactly what games to play here. And I think we could see some drivers really come to the fore because of that. But at the same time, if you're a bit of a newbie and you're looking to make moves anyway, it can surprise those drivers who maybe have a couple of set ideas in mind. So this really could go either way. And it's a very long circuit. And we're going to have to be covering kilometres worth of track, James.
We are, but at least we can sit back and relax knowing that we've got 90 minutes to do so, and we've got 90 minutes to drone on about the overtakes and the slipstreaming and everything else. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not a massive fan of this circuit to drive myself. I'm not particularly very good at it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight's race, and more importantly, my favourite bit of the fortnight is that we've got the Rob Mackay track guide. So we unfortunately we don't have anything particularly super special for this week, apart from I did manage to capture that one picture of Rob in a recent Le Mans race, who was just about to have some kind of incident, but yeah, what we thought was, with being an extremely long lap, that we needed something quite quick, so we actually managed to hire Kevin Estra's Porsche 963 hypercar to stick Rob in this week. So Rob's going to take us on a lap of Le Mans, and Dara is going to be able to talk us through it.
Well, we're going to have a lot of downtime. down the Mulsanne. So if I start waffling, please don't blame me. But we are going to get going on this lap then with Rob, and he's going to cross the start-finish line. That is the start of the Bugatti circuit as well. The shorter layout that those of you who will be more well-trained in the MotoGP world will recognise. Through the first corner, very fast, not quite flat out, I don't think, in the GT4s, but they can try their best. And then you run up towards this Dunlop chicane, through the left, through the right, and over the top of the crest of the hill. It's a difficult place to really get it done, particularly on the opening lap. I think drivers will be wary of that opening part of the lap. Then it's through the Turks Rouge, keeping it tight through some of these lines. We could see a couple of GT3s and GT4s trip over themselves at this part of the racetrack. Then you're into Turks Rouge, very high speed, more of a flick through the corner more than anything else. And then you start the Mulsanne, and then you can start twiddling your thumbs. You can start to think about what you might have as a snack after the race. You might be able to think about when your pit stop's going to be, have a look around, maybe just get the cat off of the sim rig setup and just have a wonderful time before we get towards the first braking zone. As Andrew Fellows there, you can just about see him on the inside line, just getting out of the way of Rob as he's just about going to pick out his braking zone. Turning right for the first of the chicanes, then of course sweeping it back through the left, and as fast as you can to that little kink of the right, back onto the Mulsanne straight, and what will you know, we're going straight again. We're going flat out once again, and we're just going to keep on going and going and going all the way to the second of the two chicanes. And while we're going down here, maybe thinking about the order from the KFC in the circuit that we could be having by the end of the night. There we go, find your braking point, into the left, into the right, almost identical, just symmetrical to the chicane that we saw earlier on. One goes to the right, one goes to the left. But the third heavy braking zone at the end of the Mulsanne is going to be that little bit sharper and that little bit more dangerous. If there's any kind of precipitation on the racetrack, which we're not necessarily expecting tonight, it can be very tricky to pick out your braking point. But in the dry, you can just about see as you go through the left hand, you want to straighten the car up and brake as hard as you can to make the inside line here at Mulsanne corner. If you drift wide, you're into that gravel, you're going to be losing a heck of a lot of lap time because you need a good exit out of there as you run again down in towards Indianapolis. Another long straight. And you can kind of see what I mean by saying that a lot of this race is going to feel like nothing for these drivers because time is just going to fly by with the amount of time they have to just stand there with their foot on the throttle. Overtake a car if you need to down in towards Indianapolis. It's difficult into the left-hand, or into the right-hander, I should say, if you want to make a move into the left-hander, because you have to be really quite smart with how you try and make the move. It gets a little bit more technical now, though, as we get in towards Arnage, the right-hander, another relatively slow corner, where it opens up once again, and this is where we're going to start to see a couple of drivers maybe overthink their lines, because the Porsche curves are coming up and you need to pick the right line. If you go slightly offline at any point down this far section of corners, you're going to find yourself losing tenths as it just spirals downwards into the Porsche curves. Then the first right-hander comes at you very quickly. Carry through as much speed as you can for a double left-hander. Don't hit the wall on the outside line. Keep it into the left once again and then change the direction. Right-hander, keep it going. The momentum will carry you through to this little left-hander and Maison Blanche. You just have to keep running it through. It's a little chicane. Flick right, left, and then you're thinking about the final couple of corners. Low speed, but you could easily get them wrong. The virage forward, and then at the virage du Recordement, this is the Ford chicane, getting very difficult, and then at the final couple of corners, keep the lines tight if you can. Don't cut them too much. iRacing will give you a bit of a slap on the wrist. But that's a full lap here at Le Mans. But it's a pretty long one, James, compared to what we've seen so far this season.
It is, mate. It is, and it was interesting that I'm not sure that I've ever seen that before. Is that Rob passed Andrew Fellows at the start of the lap and then managed to catch him up again towards the end of the lap. So I can only kind of assume that Andrew Fellows must have been going backwards somehow. But yeah, great lap for Rob there. Thank you for Rob for doing that and taking the time out to pop over to France and get that done for us. We did have to pay for the car this week, so we did have to hire it. So our little friend Brett Mackay will be disappointed with that, because when Rob doesn't have to pay for the car, then Rob usually puts a little bit of a prize up for a very small select few to be drawn from, of which is, Brett Mackay was the winner last time. But I am told that in 2 weeks' time that the on-track car for Catalonia has been a freebie. So keep your eyes peeled, Brett, and there might be a prize coming in a couple of weeks' time. So moving on to the standings. First of all, we've got the GT3 driver standings, if you want to run us through those, Dara, and I'll do the GT4 afterwards.
Yeah, it's been a really quite exciting championship so far in these GT3s, because we haven't really seen too many drivers and get able to steal much of a march compared to some of the rest. And, you know, on Thursday nights in the A split and the B split here in ESR and the GT3 Championships, we've seen a couple of guys being able to streak away just a little bit, not in the European GT Championship. Anton Kalo still has that championship lead. He's held it all season long. You can see, first 2 races of the season, 2 wins on the cars, and from there he's been able to build his lead, but he's not really been able to pull away too much of late, because with the likes of Gianni Terhar, who's beaten him in the last 2 races, he's closed that gap, and yes, it's 50 points, but Gianni leads quite an intense chasing pack. Will Soper, first podium of the season, getting him into the top 3 with the P3 back a couple of weeks ago. Yannis Albert is 3 from 3 in terms of wins. He's now 4th in the championship, but could easily be P2 by the end of tonight if he keeps up his form. Ben Bennyworth and Joe Glass, they've been very consistent in how they've gone about their business. No podiums for them, but the consistency gets them to 5th and 6th, and I think they'll be in a bit of a battle between themselves for that P5 spot by the end of the season. Matt Hoyland, not being able to reach the heights of his podium at the start of the season so far. Since then, and the DXT driver is still in 7th, with Kalle Leskinen, who's going along very nicely on a Thursday night in 8th in the standings. Urimas Shalinskas and Jason Baxter inside the top 10. And it has to be said, for Jason Baxter, if the internet was a kinder person to him, he'd be far higher up these championship standings. But it really has been his downfall, really, and through no fault of his own. But he is one to watch just inside the top 10 in the standings. Jaden Scotland's 11th with his kind of consistency, keeping him inside this top 12 display. And Joe Sparrow, the McLaren driver, the only other McLaren driver outside of Anton Kalo in this top 12, he'll look to move up the order. He'll look for his 2nd top 10 of the season tonight.
Yes, well, we can talk a little bit about some of the driver changes in a moment, Dora, because we've had a little bit of musical chairs going on, I think, in the last few days. So after the stand-ins are done and we get looking at some of the quali laps, we'll talk about some of the driver changes that have happened in the last week. So without further ado, let's have a look at the GT4 driver stand-ins. So we've got Marius Hibmer, who is currently leading the way on 222. I'll start again, shall I? 224 points. Marius's consistency has been really fantastic. Had a little bit of a slip at round 5 from his usual podium finishers. And Marius is actually not with us tonight. So Marius's team, which is the Flatline Racing Green team, they do have a reserve driver in tonight for Marius. Marius has got some studying to do. He's got a very, very important exam tomorrow, so we wish him the absolute best of luck with that. And yeah, we'll keep our eye on Max Nevinciani, who is taking over from Marius tonight in that GT4. We've then got William Humphrey in 2nd place, so we know that William missed that one round. 220 points, so only 4 points behind. So chances are, as long as all things go well for William, he should retake that championship lead this evening. 3rd place, Stephen Donnelly on 181 points, so a little bit further behind for the JSD Racing team, followed by Pedro Luis da Silva in the BMW M4 GT4 on 165 points for Flatline Racing. So Pedro looking to get some good results tonight. We've then got Tristan Engelstadt for Quad Dash Racing with that win last time out at Imola. So Tristan clawing his way back up with the last 2 finishes of a 2nd and a 1st. So he'll be looking to go well. I know Gianni's looking to go well tonight as well. So the Quad Dash Racing team will be well up for this. And then in 6th place, we've got Martin Kenyon from DXT Motorsports. Again, some consistent finishing there from Martin on 147 points. Closely followed by Nils Kula from Axis Sim Sports in 7th place on 119 points. We've then got the teammate of Yannis Albert, Bobby Moss, the Minecraft Racing team, in 8th place on 110 points. And Ryan Stringer. Ryan missing the first 2 rounds, replacing Mike Fowler for the Quad Dash Racing LGR division. 101 points from 3 rounds. He's making a name for himself, and I do believe he's desperate to get on the podium, so Dara actually includes him in the interview list. So maybe tonight could be the night, Ryan. We shall see. Linus Petkavicius, took me 3 rounds to be able to pronounce his name, thanks to Dara's bit of training. He's running in 10th place for SRB Motorsport with 86 points. And then just on the outskirts, we've got Chris Jennings and Evan Main. So, team standings, as I look to my left, we've got 4 minutes of quali already gone. So, Dara, if you want to skip us through the team standings for the pro teams, please.
I mean, it's been another good championship in these teams' championship, and it really goes down to the fact that we spoke to a couple of drivers a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, who were talking about how they're focusing on the teams over the drivers, which is kind of what we want to see. But leading the way at the moment is that quad dash duo, Teha and Tristan Engelstadt, but they've not got a great lead. Glass Tech are right behind them. With Joe Glass, would it shock you, and William Humphrey, only 8 points back. Flatline Racing, Green with Scotland and Hidmer are in P3, but they're being chased by Albert and Bobby Moss, who, mind you, didn't turn up to the first couple of rounds. So those 285 points are only from 60% of the season so far. They're definitely some of the favourites to take the title by the end, but they've got to get more points tonight. Axis Conehead pick up the final, as it would stand, podium, or not podium, trophy winning position on 261 points, but the likes of MK Simsport are going to be chasing them down, alongside Rage Against Game Esports Ruby. Anton Kaler, of course, championship leader in the GT3s, Jason Baxter, who would deserve a little bit more points, you'd say, in the GT3s as well. They'll be looking to get themselves in the top 5 tonight. You've got Flatline Racing Red, SLB Motorsport and Quad Dash LGR inside the top 10 as well. They're looking to pick up some cash if they can stay there by the end of the season. And for Axis RDSA, HSR, LS Racing, Random Races, I think a few more points probably needed to be picked up, James, if they want to get themselves towards that top 5 or even the top 10.
They certainly do. And tonight's the time to do it with the extra points available. Looking at the Pro-Am Teams Championship standings, so at the moment, we've got 2 clear kind of runaway leaders. We've got DXT Motorsports of Matt Hoyland and Martin Kenyon on 259 points. And then only 12 points behind them, we've got the JSD Racing team of Joe Dangerous Sparrer and Stephen Donnelly. So I think Joe and Stephen were actually in the lead up to last round, and then there was a couple of unexpected incidents, and DXT managed to take that back. So these two, half of the season gone, 12 points between them. This is going to prove really, really interesting to see how these guys can battle it out for the second half of the season. Third place, we've got Axis Sim Sports with Andre Muntian and Nils Kooler. So Andre Muntian isn't here this evening, and he is being replaced by Matthew Croft as their reserve driver. Matthew drives in our GT3 Championship on a Thursday night. Raced against Matthew a few times. Going to be really interesting to see how he goes. Of course, Matthew is forced into the Acura of Andre Muntian, so we'll see how Matthew gets on with that. In fourth place, we've got Ben Bennyworth and Ian Chambers. Ben Bennyworth, another driver tonight, being replaced by a reserve. So Ben Bennyworth is being replaced by, as I look on my replacement sheet, Nick Scott. So Nick Scott, the registered reserve for Quartermass Motorsport Bravo, is replacing Ben tonight. They're in fourth place. So they won't score drivers' points, those drivers that are reserves, but they will contribute to the team's total. So Ben Bennyworth and Ian Chambers in fourth. We've then got Flatline Racing Pink, who also joined the season a couple of rounds in, of Kalle Leskinen and Daniel Paul on 118 points. So that's where the trophies finish, up to fifth place. We've then got sixth place, Matthew Jones and Nick Stubb. Matthew is here tonight. Every week I say it, and sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't, but I've seen him tonight for definite. We've then got Clyde Veyer and Malcolm Coates for Rage Against the Game Esports Diamond in seventh place. Adam Baker and Callum Morrow for LS Racing 002 in 8th. We've got the Moonshiners, Dean Sheesby and Rob Gregg in 9th. And then 10th place, rounding out the top 10, we've got Andy Chell and Simon Hunt. We've got Mission R, Ryan Blackie and Dan Cross. Dan Cross is here tonight, so be looking to score some points. Not seen any of the Kamei GP2 guys of Jim Fox and John Ludbrook. We do have Louis Plath and Pete Paver 13th. Suma GPT, Robin Aston and Scott Kostrick 14th. And we've got Flatline Racing's Dean Sargent and Jason Haddington, who I don't think are with us this evening. So quickly, as we go through, a massive shout out and thank you to our series sponsors, Trophy AI, VRS, Kamei for the personalised trophies, GP2 Group, and last but by no means least, Motorsports UK's esports division for recommending ESR as one of their, or recognising ESR as one of their recommended communities. For anybody that's interested, we are running the live timing that you will be able to get in the link at the top of the chat. So if you want to click that link, you'll be able to follow the drivers and the live timing as we go through. As we now join in Qualidara, and I'll try and get things up on screen as we should have them.
Yeah, and this, I think, going to be quite an interesting qualifying session in terms of the picture of the season. We've still got a little bit of time left. A lot of drivers still are on the track by virtue of the fact that this is such a long lap to complete their the laps that they have available to them, it's going to take that a little bit longer in the session. Humphrey, though, unsurprising to see him at the top of the timesheets, but look at that gap at the top of the GT4s. 14 thousandths of a second separating first and second over a lap time that is 4 minutes and 15 seconds long. I mean, that's ridiculously close in terms of the gaps that we're seeing. And William Humphrey is ahead, but, hanging on by a little bit of a thread here. And Tristan Engelstadt, joining those two towards the front. Dan Cross will be jumping up there just that little bit further back. Yannis Silbert, though, big gap for his advantage in the GT3 class. He has a good, well over half of a second back to Gianni Terha, who's not too far ahead of Will Soper, but those three a long way ahead of the rest. Anton Kalo well over a second behind Will Soper. So really interesting, I think, to see how we're seeing a really quite close closeness GT4 order, but in the GT3s there's quite a spread. I guess when you get a little bit further back, you're looking at the likes of Carlos and Clarkson. They're quite close, but not quite at the sharp end like it is in the GT4s. So it could be something interesting to watch as we run through the race. But a couple of contenders, I think, to point out. Anton Kalo, of course, P4 in the GT3s on the where, as we'd expect to see. And as you mentioned, James, with Hibman not being here today, Humphrey has that chance to go back to the top of the championship, and he's looking like he's taking it with both hands at the moment.
He is. Yeah, no, he is, absolutely. And I think it's fantastic to see that we've got Pedro Luis de Silva running right behind him, only, 1/100th of a second behind him. And as you say, over a massive long lap like this, which is, I think, probably the longest lap on the iRacing service, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Apart from the Nordschleife, I would say that this is probably the longest lap of a kind of regular circuit. So yeah, that's fantastic to see. And Tristan Engelstadt, following on his form from the previous round, as Justin Eloff pops a lap in there into 5th place. He goes into 5th for the RDSA X-Axis team. Some of the standouts, I think, with a lap like this, Dara, the other thing is that we were asked at the start of the week about if we were going to change the qualifying time, because we run the way that this championship is run, we run either 4 laps of qualifying or 20 minutes total, whichever comes first. And a couple of the drivers asked for the GT4s if we were going to extend that qualifying time, and we weren't. It was already set in the championship rulebook. So in actual fact, probably all of the GT4 drivers and maybe some of the GT3s might only get 3 laps in, of which your first lap is usually to get the tyres in the zone, so it may actually mean that some drivers only manage to get 2 fast laps in.
Yeah, and that could be really quite important for them, and I think a lot of pressure will be mounted on them, therefore, to not be able to get those lap times in, and really puts a lot of weight on those that opening run, really. We talk about banker lap times being important all the time in any qualifying session, but, if you're only going to get 2 laps in, that first lap's even more crucial. If you can't get that first lap time in, or, you invalidate it, or you get an off track, so I'm trying to say, then it's going to become really difficult, and you're going to put so much pressure on yourself to perform on that second lap. So, yeah, really important and really critical to see some of those drivers who are near the top of the championship getting those lap times in early on, because they're not then pushing themselves to get that lap time on the second run that they have to take. So that could be really quite important to watch develop here. Oh, hello, Thomas Noakes going to the top of the timesheets in the GT4s. Didn't necessarily expect to see that, but always nice to see him pop towards the top of the timesheets. William Humphreys got to find half a second somewhere.
Yeah, I had to disappear there for a minute, Dara. So I'm hopefully back. Yeah, just I'm conscious of the fact that I can mute myself for the stream, but you're still going to have to listen to me coughing, unfortunately. So if you do hear that, then I do apologise. But yeah, Thomas Noakes there, just kind of sneaking his way through to the lead, and then soon to be snapped back by William Humphrey. So yeah, that's fantastic that we're going to get to see, hopefully see those battling as well, with Pedro Luis de Silva being and Martin Kenyon. I mean, these lap times, there's only a 10th up to 5th place. So while we're on that note, let's have a quick look and a quick while we've got 5 minutes remaining, let's have a quick look at some of the reserve drivers tonight as I go through my list. So the first one we've got, which we've already mentioned, is Matthew Croft for the Axis SimSport team, who is reserving for Andre Muntien. So Andre may be joining us in the chat a little bit later on. So, yeah, sorry he can't be with us tonight, but Matthew, hopefully he'll take care of that car for him and do a good job for the Axis SimSport team. We've then got Nick Scott. So Nick Scott is reserving for Ben Bennyworth for the Quartermass Bravo team. I'm just having a look down the timing screen now to see if I can find Nick, and Nick seems to have disappeared from my timing screen, which is strange because I did see him earlier. He's in the pits, so not come out on a lap, no problem. Okay, we'll try and catch him a bit later. So the next driver is Max Neven-Charney, reserving for Marius Hibmer for the Flatline Racing Green. We've then got Jason Baxter, who unfortunately Jason has withdrew from the series, and Evan Main is currently running solo in the GT4s. So Evan has said that their team are looking to provide a replacement from next week onwards. So that's a shame, and we wish Jason all the best, and hope to see him back on the grid with ESR at some point in the future. And hopefully Evan will be able to get himself a new teammate for next week. And then the last one is the guy that we were talking about, which is Thomas Noakes, who has replaced Jelle Damstra to join Anton Kalo in the MK SimSport team. So I think Jelle was struggling with the times of the races. So it's nice for Anton that he's now got a teammate to back him up and support him. So we'll get all those names changed and tweaked in the standings for next time out, but that should be good for the MK SimSport team, and they'll be looking a lot more competitive, I think, Jara, in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I'd back that, and I think this second half of the season is not necessarily such a change from what we saw in the first half of the season, but you know, the first few races, I think 2-3 races, drivers were settling in, and of course with that first 90-minute race that we saw at Zandvoort, I think drivers were just trying to get their bearings for the championship. Now that we kind of have more of a grasp of where a lot of these teams and drivers find themselves at this stage of the season, I think this second half can be somewhat totally different to what we saw in the early stage of the season, because drivers are almost in that different mindset. They kind of know what they're expecting, they know what they're targeting, and so it can be quite a different prospect for a few of these guys. So yeah, I think the second half of the season, there's anything and everything up for grabs ready for these drivers. Nothing is really confirmed at this point. I've just seen Anton Kalo pop it up to P3, by the way, in those GT3 in that GT3 order. Mind you, though, he's still, well, I mean, like 1.7 seconds, give or take, behind Yannis Albert, which is an incredible gap to have for Yannis. He's 1.3 seconds ahead of anybody, mind you. And with only a couple of lap times left to come in, it's looking pretty good for him and pretty good for William Humphrey as well. Thomas Noakes has improved, not ahead of the championship leader-elect, you could say, in that GT4 class. With only a couple of minutes left to go in qualifying. If you're not on a lap now, you're not really going to have much of a hope, are you, James?
No, and I think that's just dashed Thomas's hopes a little bit, because Williams just set a 4:14.1, so the gap now in the GT4s has moved up to just under 4 tenths, so 3.6 tenths. So fantastic lap from William. That must have been his third and final lap as I look on my screen now, and it was his last lap. So it looks like all the laps are in, Dara. They've timed this quite nice. We've got a few drivers that are still on circuit, but I'm not 100% sure if they're still setting a lap at the moment. We've got Tristan Engelstadt with only 1 minute left to go, just starting his lap. This is going to be more about practice and familiarisation than it is getting his lap, because he's not got enough time to get it done and completed. So I think pretty much that is going to be the starting grid. So once again, thank you to everybody that's joined us in the chat. So if you could like the stream for us, that would be fantastic. Helps the algorithm and helps the promotion of the league and all of these drivers' fantastic liveries and the fantastic racing that we're just about to see. So much appreciated. big congratulations to Danny Weir, who had his second child just recently. So, yeah, big shout out and congrats to Danny. Hope mum and the baby are doing fantastic, mate, and all the best with that. So it's lovely to see as part of the community when people share those things with the other drivers, and yeah, I know that Danny will be absolutely buzzing for that, and he'll be shouting on his teammates of Hoyland and Kenyon, and Martin Kenyon's doing a stunning job in 5th place. So this looks very, very good for them, Dar, and very promising for the night ahead.
It's a shame, really, though, isn't it? Because Martin Kenyon, if he gets a podium, he can't exactly do a baby celebration like they can do in the football. That would be fun, though, wouldn't it?
Martin probably could find a way.
We'll have to stick it at the start of next stream's broadcast. But no, congrats to Danny from me as well. That's fantastic news. Yes, I echo those wishes. But realistically, going into this race, there's going to be a lot of drivers. I think they're going to be right up for this one, and a grid that's going to be very mixed off the start, with a few drivers keen to move in the opening laps, I'd say.
It is. It absolutely is. And I think we've got about half a formation lap to get this grid out there. We have asked for, in the driver briefing, so we do ask for the pole man from the GT4s to leave approximately 10 seconds between the final GT3 car and the pole man for GT4. So without further ado, Dara, I best let you get on and talk us through.
Yeah, this is going to be a relatively stacked grid, as we've come to expect here in the ESR European GT Championship, and it's going to be led by 3-time serial race winner Yannis Hulbert, looking for his 4th in a row. The German is across the border here to France, and he's looking to beat the Dutchman Gianni Terhar, who of course had that great race a couple of weeks ago, and he'll be looking to build off of that tonight. Anton Kalo, championship leader as he has been all season long, will start P3 for the MK Simsport outfit, but he's already 1.6 seconds off the pace. He's ahead of Jaden Scott and Tomas Zelinskas inside the top 5, with Will Soper and Matt Hoyland just in behind. Denzel Clarkson, the Guyanan, rounds off row number 4, and he had a big gap back in qualifying. Back to Kalle Leskinen, who is, of course, the GT3 overall championship leader when you look at the elite class on a Thursday night. Joshua Cohen is starting in P10, just ahead of Adam Baker and Joe Glass, who starts P12, as Glass Tech look to try and put themselves towards the top of the tree in that pro team standings. Clyde Veyer, the Maltese driver, 4 seconds off the pace in P13. He's joined on row 7 by Joe Sparrow, who we talked about trying to get inside the top 10 of the championship tonight. Dean Tyler, Matthew Jones, Robin Aston and Matthew Croft make up rows 8 and rows 9, and they're just ahead of Andy Chell and Andrew Fellows, who make up row number 10. Just the 2 more GT3s, and it's Nick Scott and Lewis Plath, the Germans, bookending that GT3 field first and 20 seconds. See how well Lewis can do from the back of that GT3 grid. And then we're going to have a bit of a look at the GT4s, headed, of course, by William Humphrey, the man who's been the benchmark in GT4s in the last few months here in ESR. He starts just ahead of Thomas Noakes, who's a little bit more of an unknown quantity coming into this race than some of the... Well, William Humphrey will be, certainly, and William will be hoping to cover him off early on. Tristan Engelstadt and Petra Luis de Silva make up row number 2 with Martin Kenyon and Ryan Stringer on row 3 of those GT4s. Slijsbeek Gewischer, Stancross and Justin Ehrloff, the South African driver, are inside the top 10 in class, with the first of the Americans, Evan Main, Stephen Donnelly, in 11th and in 12th. Chris Jennings, Nick Stubber, Max Nevinchani and Simon Huntley in the top 40 overall, and that's the top 18 in class. The top 20 rounded out by Callum Morrow and Ian Chambers. 22 in the GT3s, 23 in the GT4s, and they're rounded out by Daniel Poole, Sean Clark and Niels Kula. Who's at the back of the field for the Axis Sim Sports team. The Latvian driver's got a lot of moving forward to do in this race.
Yes, wow, fantastic number, fantastic turnout tonight. So yeah, hopefully this kind of goes well at the start of the race. Now I do think, Dara, that they are going to probably, the drivers are probably going to approach this a bit more calmer than usual, with it being the 90-minute race. And I think that that's what we saw, if I remember rightly, that's what we saw at Zandvoort as well. So fingers crossed everything can go according to plan. We'll stay with the GT3s for the first part of the lap, and then as soon as we can we will cut to the GT4s as the safety car looks like it's about ready to peel in. And over to you, Dara, for lap 1.
Yeah, it's single file for the front runners as they just about double up as we approach the line. Very short run. Oh, they don't quite double up. Albert's going to get a great launch off of the line here. Anton Kaler already looking at the back of Jenny Terha to try and find a way through up into the Dunlop chicane for the first time. Be careful though. Jaden Scotton sniffing around looking for a top 3 position, but inside line for the championship leader in the drivers' standings. Anton Kaler, the Finnish driver, already up to P2. Jenny Terha's lost 1 position. He may lose 2. Jaden Scotton's gone spinning from P4 all the way to the back of the order in the GT3s. Arumas Linskas has got through on him on the run up towards the opening chicane for the first time. Kaler will be trailing Albert down through Turch Ridge for the first time, but as they go through turn 8 for the first time, the GT4s are getting off the line, and William has got a lovely launch out of Thomas Noakes and Pedro Luis de Silva. Martin Kenyon just trying to hang on to that P5 ahead of Ryan Stringer, who is looking for that podium as you mentioned tonight, getting to the inside line through the Turch Rouge, but nothing doing there for him. Carefully, because the Minecraft Racing team's Bobby Moss is just in behind. He'll look to come through. Dean Tyler's dropping down the order. He's had an awful start from the GT3 field.
Yeah, that seems to be it seems to be a reasonable start. They're quite spread on the old GT4s there. So yeah, great start for William. He's away with half a second to Thomas Noakes, and then you've got Pedro Luis de Silva running in 3rd and Tristan Engelstadt in 4th. We've got that GT3 car that looks like we've got a little bit potential of causing a little bit of a roadblock here for looks like Matthew Croft as well, that's had a little bit of an issue there. I think Matthew Croft must have had a little bit of an issue. No, I don't quite know how that's not shown up on my timing screen, but we will try and fix that a little bit later on. Meanwhile, Yannis Albert, 1.4 second lead from Anton Kalo. And then we've got Janny Terha and Aruma Silinskas. That looks a close battle. We've also got Matt Hoyland that looks like he's coming under a little bit of pressure here from Will Soper. And I think that's Denzel Clarkson that's also coming to give a little bit of a pressure as Will looks on the inside, gets the job done. Matt Hoyland just tucks in behind and says, I'll wait a little bit and let the race come to me and see where we go from there. Overall, not too bad a start, Dara, not too bad a start at all.
No, not at all, and I think very clean from the leading drivers. They'll be pleased to have got away and off of the line without much of a hitch. That really goes beyond the bay, who's got a big gap back. Jay Terha, there's something happened to him. He's dropping down the order with it. We can see him right there, can't we? He's lost out to Soper, to Hoyland, to Denzel Clarkson. Now he started up in P2, already down to 7th. It's just not been the start for the Dutchman that he was looking for, and he makes his way through Indianapolis for the first time in this race. Not in the way that I think he would have wanted to. He probably would have wanted to be in the lead. Definitely not behind 6 drivers trundling through Arnard. He's got to be careful because Joshua Cohen will be the next one to come through. Joe Glass with a good start from outside the top 10 to the top 9 after the first 2/3 of a lap. He'll be looking to move forward that little bit more as we run our way through the next few laps through this opening stint. But for William Humphrey, that gap isn't huge, is it? Thomas Noakes is keeping him very much honest. But they've got GT3 Dean Tyler right in front of them. Or have they? Oh no! Spin behind! I think that's Noakes and Engelstadt. They've come together. Yes, they have. And I think that's Noakes who was being, he's blocking Engelstadt from moving away. Everybody else is coming through. Will they all avoid just about? Thomas Noakes may be able to get himself back as there's more drivers coming through. And there's a couple of drivers getting caught up in the incident. I think that was Max Nevin, or Niels Kooler actually, getting caught up in that. Noakes is around though. And that's devastating for Engelstadt. They had such a good qualifying. And it's all come undone so early on. And look at Daniel Paul down the order as well. 3 drivers in the GT4 class out at pretty much the same corner.
Oh dear, oh dear. I don't think that was part of the plan and part of the script. What it has meant is that William Humphrey has now pulled a 1.8 second lead, and we've got Pedro Luis de Silva for Flatline Racing in his BMW that's now got a 3.7 second lead to the guy closest behind, which is Ryan Stringer. So I think Pedro will be feeling like the pressure's off a little bit now. He's got that gap in behind and he can just sit tight and try and do the lap. So that's kind of them two up the road. And then you've got this kind of battle from Ryan Stringer, Justin Aloff, Martin Kenyon, Bobby Moss, Stephen Donnelly, Linus Petkovicius, and it finishes with Evan Main in the second of those BMWs. So yeah, you've got probably like 7 or 8 drivers there with not a lot between them at all. I know that Justin Eloff, he races in the GT3 Championship on a Thursday. I know that Justin's got amazing pace. So whether we'll see Justin actually just pull forward and make a little bit of a break, I don't know. We'll have to keep our eye on that and see. But yeah, great start for Martin Kenyon there. So the DXT team who are joining in the chat will be really, really pleased with Martin's performance. And his teammate, Matt Hoyland, is currently running in P5. So again, DXT having a very, very strong performance here, as we've got Nevin Charney, Engelstadt and Daniel Poole all coming into the pits. So that will be all to use up their fast repairs. Got that little gap there developed, Dara, between Gianni Terhaar, and then we've got that gap back, Clyde Veyer and Joe Glass. It looks like Joe Glass was just getting the overtake done there, as we've also got what looks to be the number 73 of Josh Cowan that went through as well. So Joe Glass got the job done on Clyde Veyer, and Josh Cowan got the job done on Joe Sparrow, but Joe Sparrow's having none of it. Joe Sparrow says, no thank you, I'm coming back at this. Let's jump on board with Joe and see what it's like. He's also got Kalle Leskinen just behind him for company as well. So I think you've got Kalle up on the left of Joe currently, looking at the timings. He's got the inside. There's Kalle. Oh, and there's a little bit of a bump there. Perfect timing, flash of the lights just to let him know he's still there. So yeah, I can imagine it getting very, very hot under the collar in the Sparrow household. But P11 for Joe Sparrow, yeah, good start for him.
Yeah, and I think for Kalle Leskinen, he probably isn't where he'd expect himself to be. So if you're Joe Sparrow, you're going to be very wary of the Finnish driver right up behind you. And how long is he going to be right up behind him as he goes to the outside line? On his way in towards Indianapolis, he's going to have a long run around the outside. If he's going to make it, he's got the inside line, the left-hander, but he's not going to be able to get this one done. He's going to run to Arnage. Hopefully this won't end in the same way that we saw the GT4 battle end down here. It's the outside line for Leskinen. Can he get the drive off of the corner? No, really. He doesn't really have as much of an overlap as I think he would have expected himself to have. And Jaden Scotland's going to start to get himself involved into the Porsche curves if this runs on any longer. A bit of a run now for Kalle Leskinen. He's going to have the inside line for that slight kink. Is it going to be enough to deter Joe Sparrow from going up the inside at the Porsche curves? It won't deter Scotland from going around the outside into the right-hander at the start of the Porsche curves, though. As we see if he can make it work, the answer is emphatically no. But Leskinen is ahead, and Kalle can now start to work up the head to Joshua Cohen. Like I said, he would not expect himself to be down in P11 in this race. He is leading the championship in the GT3s on a Thursday night in the elite class. He wouldn't expect himself to be anywhere really outside of the top 5 in this race. A poor qualifying has put himself here, but he knows how to race his way through. Scotland's going to race his way through to Joe at P12 now. Sparrow, sadly for him, starting to fall back a little bit, not in the way I think he would have wanted to. Big gap already to Jaden Scott. What's happened there?
So is Kalle Leskinen leading the elite class, or is he leading the pro class?
Yes. Oh, hang on. No, you might be right. No, you know what? You know what, James?
Yeah, I think
you're
he's
right.
leading. I think you just.
Do you know why I've got confused?
You just promoted him, Dara. You just promoted him.
Do you know why I've got confused there? It's because every Thursday Joe reads the elite standings and I read the pro standings. So in my head, the standings that I know are the elite standings, but it's not. Yeah, you're right. I've said that at least twice or 3 times on this broadcast already.
Right, don't worry about it. Yeah, the first couple of times I was just letting it go, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to stop him now. Just in case.
Yeah, no, thank you.
But yeah, no, he is leading the pro class, and he's definitely got the elite pace for sure. So as Jaden Scotland looks now like he's going to, again, try and get that run as they go past what looks to be a Rumas Zelinskas that is on a slowdown, and Jaden Scotland pulls out from behind Kalle Leskinen. So Kalle looks to be on his left-hand side, which he is, and he pulls back in line, and that's job done for Jaden Scotland. So after that first incident, Marius will be pleased to see that. He's making his way back up through, and there's a long time to go, Nora. We've got 1 hour, 20 minutes to go. So there is still an awful long time for people to be making comebacks.
Very long time. We've got 80 minutes. And I've already got something wrong at least 3 times, so this is going to be a very long broadcast for the 2 of us. If we see some of these gaps open up a bit. We are still seeing quite a lot of these trains, though, not least down here in the GT4s. Probably not trying to get past Alof. And I think we have to talk a little bit more about this Minecraft racing team, because we've seen how good Yannis Robert's been in this league for a few years now. Bobby Moss is joining him in that Minecraft racing team. They really are digging up a great challenge for that championship. Not even being here for the opening 2 weeks, they come into Austria, I think it was, round 3, is a bit of an unknown package because they hadn't been in the championship for the first 2 races. How were they going to perform against this grid? And Yannis Robert won quite comfortably. I think Bobby Moss got a P2. I'm happy to be wrong on that one again. But he got a good result regardless, whether it was P2 or not. And they've just built on that all the way through the last couple of rounds. And they come into Le Mans. I think people are looking at them really seriously now as championship contenders, because even though they're not necessarily in the lead of the championship, they've been picking up so many points over the last 3 weeks that it's become more of a case of have teams been able to build up enough of a gap ahead of them to keep themselves ahead by the end of the season, because they've just been so consistent. And the gap that Yannis Robert has to Anton Kalo after 10 minutes, again, scary for anyone to chase down. I mean, he's what, 7.5 seconds in the lead of the race? We've been going 10 minutes.
He's a machine.
We've got another 80 to go.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
He's an absolute alien. So yeah, the Minecraft livery fits perfectly. Yeah, he's a complete alien, like fiction character for sure. How Yannis just slaps these laps in, lap after lap after lap, is absolutely beyond me. But yeah, fantastic driver and a fantastic racer. And Yannis has signed up for GT3 Season 9, so it's going to be amazing to see Yannis go up there along the likes of the RDSA, his ex-RDSA teammates, because of course he joined them for a while. So we've got Tristan and Luke. We've also got Daniel Handover. We've also got some of the Altitude 3M esports team joining us, like Adam Watson, Arthur Thurtle. We've got Andy, his second name escapes me, the 9K iRacing driver, Andy Dawson, also joining us from Sim Coach. So yeah, we've got some really amazingly talented drivers joining us for Season 9 in the A-Split. So yeah, it's going to be really, really good to see how Yannis fares against them. And like most competitive drivers, they love it when other competitive drivers are there, because it spurs them on to do better. But yeah, Yannis has been absolutely sensational, shall we say, since joining this series. And I think probably the only chance that everyone else has is that he didn't join right at the beginning. And of course, if he carries on like this, Dara, we're going to have to black flag him a couple of times by popular vote in the chat. If we get enough votes, we might have to do a bit of a black flag action. But yeah, 8.7 seconds now to Anton Kalo, and we've got Matt Hoyland running in 3rd place. So Matt's in the Pro-Am Teams Championship. So fantastic for Matt to be running in 3rd. I'm sure he'll be delighted with that in the Corvette. And Gianni Terhar, I think Gianni must have had a slowdown earlier. He's now running in 4th place with his sister teammate Denzel Clarkson from Quad Dash Racing, the LGR division, running just behind him. And then Will Soper is tagged on to the back. So these guys have got a bit of a group running all together, then a slightly bigger gap back to Joe Glass, and Clyde Veyer is doing fantastic, hanging on to the back of Joe. So I guess that fuel usage is going to come into this, Dar, as well, in terms of which cars kind of burn the most fuel, and if any of these drivers are doing any fuel saving.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think we saw it at Zandvoort, didn't we, in the opening 90-minute race that we had of this season. There were drivers that went for 3 30-minute stints, and some drivers that pushed their fuel tank to its limit a couple of times. I think we had a couple of drivers that came in with only, 6 or 7 minutes to go, because they pushed it as far as they possibly could on both stints, and that shortened off the amount of time they actually had to spend in pit lane. Clyde Fayer's going to get to the inside of Joe Glass while we talk about the fuel. He's not saving anything. He's not lifting off down into Elzan. Ooh, he might have had to, though. Just about keeps it on the track, but nearly drifts too far into the gravel. But at Le Mans, I think the difference here, it seems pretty obvious, but the amount of time you spend at full throttle means that you're going to be using a little bit more fuel per kilometre than you were using at Zandvoort. I think it's fair to say. So I don't think that we're going to be able to see drivers be able to push it as far in terms of time, and especially when you consider the lap time is 4 minutes. So over the course of a 90-minute race, we're talking about 22, 23 laps. Let's call it 24 laps. That's an 8-lap stint. The possibilities to extend it by a lap or extend it by a lap, that's something like 12% fuel save everywhere all the time. That's not likely going to happen. So I think we're going to see a lot of drivers come in on very similar lap times here. It's not going to be as mixed as it was in Zandvoort, but that could mean that drivers have as one, maybe 2 lap overcuts/undercuts, and they're going to be the crucial phases of the race for some of these guys, because I can't imagine we're going to see too many strategy games play out over the course of the evening.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. I think we did see an example of amazing fuel saving when Marius was sat behind Bobby Moss for all of that, pretty much all of that race at the Red Bull Ring, as we look like we've got Gianni Terhar that's just deciding to go up the inside of Matt Hoyland there. So that's Gianni back into 3rd place. I thought Gianni had got a bit of a slowdown, but Rob Mackay in the chat reliably informs me that it wasn't a slowdown. Rob says it was another reason. So yeah, I'm not sure, Rob. I can't possibly comment. But he's certainly done well to get back ahead of Matt Hoyland there. So retaking that 3rd position. As we look a little bit further downfield, we've not seen much of Matthew Jones in this race, currently running in P13. He's actually lost 3 positions according to this. No, he's up 3 positions, sorry, according to this, from where he started. So Matthew's running in P13. He's got Arumas Zelinskas for company, who, again, Arumas looks like he's had a bit of an incident and dropped himself down the order and making his way and his recovery through. And then we've got a bit of a gap back to Nick Scott. So we've got Nick Scott here in the Quartermass Bravo team. Doesn't look like he's got the Quartermass livery on. Maybe that's why we couldn't spot him earlier. So maybe didn't have time on Trading Paints to get that updated. And then we've got Andy Chell. So Andy Chell's running back with us currently in P16 for the other Quartermass Motorsport team, as we have a driver into the pits, which is Sean Clark. So Sean Clark is getting one of his pit stops out of the way. Sean is currently running in 45th, so we'll keep an eye out for that. And then we've got Robin Aston, P17. I think Robin must have had an incident as well. He was previously running a bit further up than that. We've got Matthew Croft. We know Matthew had an incident at the start, which cost Matthew, and I think Matthew has been in and done one of his pit stops already. And then we've got Andrew Fellows. Andrew Fellows is running P19, and Andrew hasn't pitted. So, as we come back to the GT4s, William Humphrey, 1.3 second gap to Pedro Luis da Silva. Really, really impressed with Pedro. I think this has definitely shown what pace Pedro has. Pedro has a 6.8 second gap, Dora, to Bobby Moss. That's pretty impressive in these GT4s.
It certainly is, and particularly when you think of the fact that William Humphrey's been the benchmark. I know I keep repeating it, but it's true. To be so close to William Humphrey is going to give him quite a lot of hope, I think, in this race, and give that big boost of confidence that'll help him through into this 2nd and maybe even 3rd stint. Bobby Moss has been quick, but he's being pressured by Justin Eloff, so there is no guarantee that he'll be able to close that down. And with the fact that William Humphrey, is up the inside comes Justin Eloff. I wasn't really expecting a move there, but he's gone bold on the move. He's not quite going to get it done. Something to note very quickly on the Justin Eloff livery. I do quite like it. From the side, you can tell he's South African. From the front, he looks like he's from Iceland, which I do quite enjoy. But what is for sure is Bobby Moss's mirrors are full of what is that Icelandic flag. I think he wouldn't want to be looking into the green abyss, which is the rear of the Justin Eloff car, and will be doing his best to just keep in front. But be careful, Martin Kenyon getting onto the back of this as well. And whilst these three maybe have a bit of a tussle, bit of a battle between them. Oh, hello. That's not the racing line, Martin. He's going on a sightseeing field. Maybe he's going to find that KFC on the infield.
Stop it off for a cafe crab. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. we'll have to see. I mean, me and Joe Glass were talking about this on Thursday, actually, after the broadcast, that there is actually a KFC that you can find on iRacing. So I don't know if it's able to be found. I don't know exactly where it is, but I'll have a look. Maybe that's where Martin Kenyon's looking for to get his post-race snack. Maybe a bonus banquet that will get him through his race. He might be able to pick that up at the pit stop. We'll have to wait and see. This is getting very messy, though. Pekka Vicious is in the midst of all of it. 5 cars could throw a blanket over down it towards the Mulsanne hairpin. Evan Mayne's just ahead of Nick Stubber, who was involved in all of that. Lines Pekka Vicious not able to make a move, but we've been going for just over 20 minutes, and we've got, I mean, these 6 cars now so close together, and I think for Evan Mayne, he's just lucky or glad, really, that he can just run away from these guys, because they're squabbling quite hardly here.
Yeah, I think out of this little group, I think I'd definitely prefer to be Chris Jennings as Chris watches on at the cars in front of him. So we've got Donnelly, we've got Pekka Vicious, we've got Dan Cross, Nick Stubb, and I think Evan Mayne, and there's absolutely nothing to separate these guys at all. So yeah, I think Chris has just kind of sat off the back of it, watching, thinking, yeah, okay guys, off you go, you crack on. But yeah, they seem to be leaving each other good space, so great little battle from these 5 or 6 cars. It looks like Chris might have even caught a little bit of the toe off these guys. Let's have a look what it looks like from Chris Jennings' point of view. But yeah, these are all going hard at battling, and of course each time they're battling, that's then allowing Chris Jennings just to get a little bit closer and onto the back of these, and at a certain point he's going to start picking up the toe and the draft, and that's just going to draw him on those long straights, because that's going to be even more probably significant and important on these lower powered cars than it is on the GT3s. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out on this and see where Chris can work his way up to. Looks like he might have got a little bit of an off track there, very, very close indeed, but yeah, not a lot to split between these cars at all. I have seen a couple of bits in the chat asking for what happened with certain incidents. So we've got William Humphrey, so Dave Burke is joining us in the chat. Good evening, Dave. Will Humphrey just lost a 4-second gap. Can we see what happened? Well, I did have a look in the timing tower, and unfortunately there wasn't an event recorded, so I can only assume that may have been a slowdown for William, who now has he's kind of maintaining that 1.4 second gap to Pedro Luis da Silva. Some incidents that we can cover, while I think we've got someone asking about Max Neven-Charney, who had an incident. So let's have a quick look what happened to Max Neven-Charney. Looks like just got too much on the brakes maybe, and power down, and that's kind of all that she wrote for Max on the exit of that corner. So that one was for Marius. We then had Tristan Engelstadt, Thomas Noakes that we saw. So if we have a quick look at that, let's see what happened here. So we've got, it looks like, is it a GT3 driver that's got a little bit of damage as Thomas Noakes goes wide, spins the car, and Tristan has absolutely nowhere to go. And then I think they got caught up in holding brakes and having to let cars through. So very, very, very unfortunate for those two guys, but great sportsmanship in terms of not trying to do an unsafe rejoin. We then had Nils Kooler, who had a bit of an incident. Let's see what happened to Nils. So it's in the same corner. Is this the incident? It is. This is the incident where the guys were just sat there and Nils had nowhere to go, unfortunately. We then had the next incident, which was Arumas Zelinskas. So this is what happened to Arumas. So I'm just trying to pick up whereabouts this is on the circuit. Looks like turn 4, too much gas, getting behind what looked to be Anton Kalo at that point, and just losing the rear. So not too bad for Arumas. Lost a bit of time, cost him a few places, but managed to get back going again. And then we also have an incident for Sean Clark. Not exactly sure what happened to Sean, so we'll have a quick look what happened to Sean. And it looks like the incident has already happened from when it starts recording. So very, very unfortunate for Sean. Hopefully he gets back to the pits and gets the fast repair done and gets back on track. And I think that's us almost up to date, Dara, for the incidents. What's been happening while we've been gone?
Not a great deal. It's fair to say. There was a couple of moves I've just seen up towards the top end of the GT3s. I think Jaden Scotland's got through on Joe Glass. I saw some movement. Yes, it will be Joe Glass that's dropped down. Really a second behind Scotland. Maybe overtaken by Callum Leskinen here, if he's not too careful. This is for P9 and P10. I think they're just in the background. You can see them entering the chicane now. That purple car just trailed by pink and black car of Callum Leskinen. There they are in shot. Joe Glass did lose out to Jaden Scotland. Not entirely sure why. May have to take a quick look at that when this battle settles itself out. But through Touch Rouge, I would presume he's lost over a second to Jaden Scotland, who is now trying to get through on Clyde Veyer for P7. A couple of little duos running their way towards this second chicane. Nothing going for either of them at the moment. And in fact, is that Kaleskin's teammate? May just be in the GT4 Plus on the inside into the corner. So nothing that Calais can do just yet. But he is slowly working his way through the field. Joe Glass's next target. And Joe Glass, I don't think would be terribly pleased to be overtaken by him, considering he's the Pro Championship leader on a Thursday night, James. I don't know if you knew that.
I think he is, Dory. Yeah, I'm glad you corrected me there. I thought he was elite, to be honest. Yeah, I think this is about the second or third time we've had a massive long camera view of someone trying to catch up with Joe Glass. So yeah, Joe won't be very happy about us showing that, but nevertheless, he's in P9 and holding a good position. So, and his teammate, of course, William Humphrey, is in the lead with a 1.8 second lead. So Pedro Luis da Silva is kind of holding that gap just under the 2 seconds. So not too bad at all. We've got another little battle that I spotted earlier. We've got Callum Morrow for LS Racing 002 that's following, and he has been following Malcolm Coates for a while, actually. So these two are having their own little battle, and just behind them we've got Pete Paeva and Simon Hunt. So hopefully in the next few laps these four can come together on track, not literally of course, but can come together in terms of on the track, because it looks like Simon's having a look down the inside here. So Simon fancies a little bit of this, as he's gonna get a little bit of draft from Pete, but I don't know if Pete got a better exit out the corner, because it looks like he's not gaining on him just yet, as I'm keeping one eye left on Matt Hoyland. That looks like he's having a battle royal with Gianni Tihar, so they'll be enjoying that. As Simon thinks about it, thinks better of it, so plays it safe, and he's probably going to tee that up for the exit of this corner. As he gets the power down, looks like he's got a reasonable exit. Is it going to be enough though? Is it going to be enough to get alongside before the next braking zone of the next chicane? Pete pulls left a little bit. I think it is, Dara. I think we are going to see the overtake being done. So yeah, Simon Hunt, great overtake there on Pete. Pete won't like us showing that, of course, but nevertheless, great overtake. Lovely sunscreen banner as well there from Simon on those quartermass cars. Don't know where they would have got that from. But yeah, great job. Position taken for P15.
Yeah, I do have to say, I do very much thank Quartermass for having a very distinctive livery, even when I've been at commentating on the Motorsports UK Championships. It was the GT Championship a couple of months ago. Motorsports UK Esports, of course, Championships, and Quartermass. They're very distinctive liveries. You can pick them out from 2 miles away. So I'm very thankful that they do have such a distinctive livery. It's like a bit of a DXT really, with that pink and blue combination. It's very much like some kind of I don't really know actually. Almost like some new glass. You know what? I'm going to finish that point. Matt Hoyland's doing a decent job, isn't he, James? Pit top 10 so far. He qualified well. He's obviously been through the pit stop, I believe, the first time. That's why he's so far behind Rimas Zelenskas, unless we've missed something absolutely catastrophic for him. But going along nicely, and I think it's interesting to see that we are seeing quite a few pitters before the 30-minute mark. Because if you're going for the 2 stops, you'd think that you'd go 30 minutes and stop, and go 30 again and stop, and then go 30. Having said that, though, we're just shy of 30 minutes, and the track length in terms of time is about 4 minutes. So you may not be able to get round again in time, but you would be able to make it up in terms of your 30-minute stints over the course of the race. We'll have to see how it works out. William Humphrey's coming to the pit lane from the GT4s, and he's coming from the lead, and he's dropped all the way down to P12. And that's the lowest I've seen William Humphrey run in a race quite some time, actually.
I wonder, Dara, I wonder if I wonder if some of the GT3s may need to pit more than twice. So 60% fuel capacity.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, James, but William Humphrey, he's actually not in the pit lane, is he? He's listed as out. So has something happened to William Humphrey's internet connection? Has he cracked somewhere? He's not in the pit lane, that's for sure, and that's why he's dropped all the way down to the bottom of the timing page in the GT4s. So I think there's actually something more to be dug up there for William Humphrey, which is not good news for him at all. Delightful news for Pedro Luis da Silva, but I think we're going to have to try and... What's befallen William Humphrey now, aren't we?
He's gone. He's gone.
Is it connect?
He's gone. He's not there. So he's out. He's not in the pits, so he's either had a connection problem or something else. So absolutely heartbreaking for William Humphrey there. I just wonder if this was somehow connected to that 5 seconds that he lost earlier that Dave pointed out. So we've got somebody who's got Bayside Detailing joining us in the chat saying that Will's game has crashed. So absolute heartbreak for William Humphrey there. We've got Pedro Luis da Silva, who has now inherited the lead, which, again, the timing tower seems to be all over the place, but I think he's got a 12-second lead over Justin Eloff, which he does, which you can just see there. So that seems to be what 12 seconds looks like. So we've got Justin Eloff, Ryan Stringer and Bobby Moss now fighting for P2. So yeah, it's all going on, Dara. It's all going on, and we've got your leader, Yannis Albert, who is into the pits. So Yannis is into the pits, still inheriting the lead. Nobody has stayed out past him at the moment. So this looks like the balance of all the GT3 cars coming in. Gianni Terhar goes up on the jack, so he's taking tyres. Let's have a little look where these are going to come out. So we've got Gianni Terhar there. Yannis Albert has gone. Aruma Zelinskas is also coming in. Who's going to be the next car coming out the pits? Meanwhile, we've got Matt Hoyland coming round the final corner, and it looks like Matt is going to jump all of these drivers by doing the undercut. So Matt Hoyland, the DXT Corvette, is out ahead of all drivers except for Anton Kalo. So no, he holds that third position, but has just won himself a really nice gap back to Will Soper, who Will Soper has jumped Gianni Terhar in the pits, and then Denzel Clarkson is just staying on the back of these. So yeah, mad hour in the pit stop, Dara, and I think everything's almost service resumed as normal, with maybe just Gianni Terhar losing a place there in the pit stops.
Yeah, and goes into I think goes to show what we could be expecting in the second pit stop phase in about half an hour's time. But really interesting to see that pretty much everybody's in at about that half-hour mark, and that obviously we won't see anybody doing one stop in this race, but it will be a relatively close run thing on the 2 stop. But yeah, it's going to be I think a really interesting point to watch Matt Hoyland now, because yes, he's been able to do that, move up the order a little bit after the first stop, but is he going to be able to do that again? It feels like he's going to have to take a little bit more fuel on at the second stop, maybe have to save a bit on this stint. We'll have to wait and see how it works out, but he's right behind Anton Kalo, what would be P2 in this race. It'll be 20 seconds behind Yannis Albert. You could give him a drive-through, he could still be in the lead at that rate. So we'll have to see if he can continue to march on up in front, or whether he just decides to consolidate what he's got for the time being. Hoyland not looking like he's going to be able to make any kind of move into the second of the two change on the Mulsanne, and will sit and wait behind. A name I wanted to mention quickly is Ryan Stringer down in the GT4s. He's sat in He's not sat in P2 anymore. He's sat in P3 because he's just been overtaken by Justin Eloff. I thank Justin for overtaking at that perfect moment. And they're all coming into the pit lane. Still in the top 3, though. Interesting to see him running very well up there towards the top. Pedro Luis da Silva, of course, who is now the somewhat runaway race leader with William Humphrey disconnecting, is in 2. And I would like to say that I messaged Will to see if it was a game crash, and he said, yeah, and then proceeded to say, I'll be honest, and then something that I can't say on the broadcast, James. I don't think he's a happy man, and understandably so, because a game crash is kind of as bad as it gets in the world of sim racing, isn't it?
It is. I suppose it's like an engine failure in the real world. I suppose that the good thing is at least he's not got the cost of an engine rebuild, so hopefully just a quick reboot and reinstall at worst, and fingers crossed that he's back out next time with no issues. So yeah, hopefully it's nothing that I've said or done, Will. just to put that out there, just to make sure. But anyway, I'm sure I'll get the blame at some point anyway, as Justin Eloff comes out the pits. So we've got Pedro Luis da Silva, who is already on his pit exit, and Justin Eloff is the second place driver. Tristan Engelstadt, looks like Tristan did stay out. Has Tristan pitted? He has, Dara. He has. So
I think that was after the contact, wasn't it?
yeah, I think
towards the start of the race.
I think we might be out of sync, might we? We might be out of sync.
Yeah.
So Tristan may have pitted, taken on a little bit of fuel that was available to him to take him up to capacity, but probably not enough. So he probably is still going to have to pit another 2 times. So we think that Pedro Luis da Silva is the net race leader. I think that'll be quite good for Pedro, really, because this will give Pedro someone to follow and someone to focus on, rather than just being lapping on your lonesome all out there on his own. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that, unless the fuel situation works in such a way that Tristan just managed to take enough on to kind of top him up. I guess we won't know that until the end of the race. Meanwhile, Matt Hoyland is still right on the back of Anton Kalo. So I think Matt will be moving into a kind of fuel save mode with a car that close to him, and being able to rely on the draft and the fact that Matt pitted a bit earlier than the others. This might have played right into Matt's hands here, because if he can sit behind Anton, benefit from the draft and doesn't lose too much, and fuel save on all of the entrances to the chicanes, this could make a little bit of a difference. Maybe not in terms of saving him a lap, but certainly saving time when on that final pit stop, in terms of how much fuel he has to put in.
And I think this is really what Matt needs to make this strategy work realistically, is to be able to follow a car and kind of just use it to allow him to save a little bit of fuel. He doesn't want to make an overtake here, because if he's pitted that little bit earlier, saving the fuel is going to be paramount to his luck in this race, but his fortunes come the end of the race. And so I think Matt Hoyland is going to be quite enjoying where he's sat for the time being. We'll see if it works out for him. But he's got to be careful, because he's got those cars in behind him. Will Soper, Gianni Tejar, as we're looking at him. Even Denzel Clark's not a million miles away. We're not seeing too many of these battles in the GT3 class for position on the road, but we are seeing a lot of drivers sticking relatively close together within pit windows. And I think that's what we're going to have to keep an eye on over the next 20 minutes as we get towards that final pit stop in this race, of where they sit, as we do see the Canada's closing on Jaden Scott, and they're getting through on a GT4. Just in the background, that's Clyde Fayer going for an inside line. No, not quite. On Joe Glass. Just behind that, Joshua Cohen fending off Uri Mashalinskas. So there's a couple of little duos at the moment, but there's nothing more than that on the circuit at the moment. There's not a train of 3 or more cars within a second of each other in that GT3 field. There is a couple of drivers fighting. Dean Tyler through on Andrew Fellows after Andrew's early practice. He's not going to be delighted to see Dean Tyler go past him in the same way that Rob Mackay did on his fast lap.
Yeah, Andrew's probably struggling to make the transition out of that hypercar back into the normal GT3. But yeah, Andrew and Dean looks like they're having a good old battle here. Let's jump on board with Andrew for a bit and see what this looks like. So as he comes in, braking roughly about 150. No, he's keeping it going even longer. It was interesting that I saw Grant Miller in the chat there just saying how boring it seems to be in the dry, and how much Grant really, really loves it when it's raining, Dara. So maybe that's what we should have done. We should have thrown a bit of rain into the mix just to spice things up a little bit, because Grant's driving a Mustang in the GT3 series, and he assures me it's very, very well handling in the wet.
Well, I mean, the rain makes everything better, doesn't it? No matter what series, really, no matter what you're driving in, the rain always makes it that little bit more exciting. And even, well, from our perspective particularly, when we're not driving, you always want to see a bit of rain, don't we? I can't remember a race that I've watched and I've not thought rain could really spice things up. And for the drivers, you do so many laps, particularly at Le Mans. If you do some of the endurance races that of course we have here on iRacing, even on other sims, in this month, next month as well, when Le Mans really is in season, you will do this track so many times. You'll do it to death. And normally in the dry, the second you turn on the sprinklers, it's an entirely different circuit. And we see it in real life, don't we? I think a couple of years ago, I remember rain was starting to fall in the Porsche curves, and Scott Dixon, of course the IndyCar driver, was the first driver to approach it, flew off the road, and he was one of about 6 or 7 drivers to fly off the road. Of course, you wouldn't necessarily expect that here with iRacing, as it's not like you get so wet so quickly, and these drivers are probably going to be able to control the cars. The point still stands that the rain will spice things up. The rain will get in the way, really, of some of the others who are looking to keep themselves competitive, get themselves towards the top of the orders in some of these races. But yeah, it is dry, it is sunny. You should really expect in France in June you don't see too much rain, but it does mean that these drivers are being able to get into that kind of consistent mode, and we're seeing the drivers who've maybe had a poor qualifying come through a little bit in the race, and that's really quite well exemplified in Kalle Leskinen, who we're looking at the moment. He's been able to, overtake the likes of Zelinski, Vea, Glass. He's now up to the back of Jayden Scotton, and with those kind of consistent gaps that we're seeing in the GT3 class, 3.5 seconds, 6 seconds, a second and a half, 3 seconds again, all the way up towards the top of the top 2, Leskinen kind of has those markers that he can look for as we go through the final 3/4 of an hour in this race. And if he can get through on Scotland soon, then you cannot rule out a top 5 for him.
Yeah, I think he might struggle a little bit to get past Jayden, to be honest, because I think Jayden had that incident at the start, and if I remember rightly, and my memory's not as brilliant as it used to be, but I think he went down to like P12 or P13. So for Jayden to kind of work his way back up to P7, that's really, really good going. So I would say let's have a little look at the last lap time. So we've got a 3:57.6 from Jayden, 3:57.2 from Calais. So that'll be the draft sitting in behind him. The next driver in front, and that might have been an outlap, but the next driver in front was Denzel. He must have had a bit of an incident because he did a 4:01.26. So like 4 seconds was the difference between Denzel and Jayden, and it's actually now a 3.7 second gap between Denzel and Jayden. So as Callie looks like he might have a bit of a run here, I guess the question for him is going to be, does he try and go for it, or does he just ease off? And I think we can hear him ease off. I think that's kind of very Marius-esque, just a little bit of easing off, bit of fuel saving as they pull outside. It looks like, is that Malcolm Coates that they're overtaking? The GT4, I think it must be. So is Callie going to get it done now? I don't think he is. I think he's going to sit there and let Jayden tow him along. He's going to prove me wrong there, obviously. He's going to just send it massively up the inside. But he's certainly got a good run, that's for sure.
Let's see if this is going to be a good opportunity, really, at this stage of the race. You can't quite get it done in towards Indianapolis. There may be a chance at Arnard, but then you're waiting for the Porsche curves maybe later than that. So Leskinen not quite able to get it done, I think, in the manner that he was hoping to. But Vea, though, is fighting with the rematch Zelinski just in behind. They may be just emerging into the frame. There they are, getting through on the GT4 as well. But Vea is ahead of Zelinski. But don't roll out Joshua Cohen, teammate, of course, to Justin Eloff at the moment, who is sitting in P12 right now, sitting in the top 2 in the GT4 class, showing his class at the moment, getting himself very nicely into some very decent points. And for Joshua Cohen, if he can get himself into the top 10, this could be a really good day for the Axis RDSA team. Of course, they were looking to be, on the fringe of the top 10 coming into this race in the team's championship. but this could really provide them that bit of a boost as they run their way in towards that second half of the season. Was Clyde Veye's dropping down the order now as well, so he may have come into contact with Zelenskas or Cohen. There he is, he's off there, he's spinning, he's in the wall. It's not good news at all for Clyde Veye. We'll have to wait and see if we can look at a replay, but there was either contact or Clyde's or spun up the rear end. Let's see. Does he get a tap from behind? It's either going to be yes or no. No, he loses it on his own. Maybe from the pressure from the car behind, maybe from trying to keep the gap to the car in front as small as it can be. It's a bit of an unforced error for Clyde Veye, and he's towed it back to pit lane. Yes, he has indeed. That's not what he needed at all in this race.
Very, very unfortunate for Clive there. He's having an absolutely brilliant race as well. So, yeah, very, very unfortunate. I bet you're right there, Dara. You might have been wrong about the class of Kalle Leskinen, but I think you definitely called that one right. Is that Clive would have been feeling that little bit of pressure from Arumas in his mirror, and maybe just a split second of concentration taken away, bit too much gas through the exit of that curb, and all of a sudden it's the back end's gone, and when they've gone there's no saving them. So yeah, really, really unfortunate there. That has promoted some of the other drivers up a position. So the current closest battle that we've got is we've got this battle here between Will Soper and Gianni Terhar. So Will kind of just keeping his eye on Gianni. This will be for fourth place. Gianni's dropped 3.5 seconds back behind Matt Hoyland. Matt Hoyland is 2.9 seconds now, 3 seconds back behind Anton Kalo. So those two having, all three of them having a really, really good run, and they've got that little bit of gap. As Will says, no, he's not going to have a look just yet. And they're coming up on 2 GT4s. That looks to be one of the Mission R cars. So that's probably Dan Cross. Dan's having a good run, out in 6th place. So we'll catch up with Dan in a moment. Dan Cross having a good old battle there with Ryan Stringer. So yeah, Will Soper 2 tenths behind. I don't think he's going to look for this. I don't think we're going to see any aggressive overtakes and moves at this stage until we get past that next pit stop. I think the key for Will here is just to sit in behind Gianni and save as much fuel as he can whilst not losing time to him.
And I mean, we have just passed that halfway mark in the race, haven't we? So there's still that somewhat incentive for drivers to start to wind up their races in terms of trying to make the overtakes, try and force that issue a little bit more if they've been a little bit more passive in how they've gone about the race so far. But having said that, there's also a very strong argument, as you say, to almost wait for that second pit stop, know that you're going to be able to get to the end of the race, kind of be able to see the picture of the race in front of you as you get in towards those final 30 minutes, knowing that where you are and where the drivers are around you, you're all running to the end of the race. That could be a really useful way of getting to the end of the race in terms of being able to pick and choose the overtakes and pick and choose your battles in an effective way. If you're Dan Cross right now and you're fighting with Ryan Stringer, maybe you're going to pit in a lap early, maybe Ryan could have pit in a lap earlier. That changes the face of the battle. Do you really want to be battling him if you're going to get a 3-second advantage over the course of the pit stop phase by having to put in that much less fuel into the car? So, you know, there's these sort of dilemmas, but, you know, conversations that the drivers can be having with themselves about how they're going to play these next 12, 15 minutes of the race in terms of their own strategy, because once we kind of get a real sense and a real picture of where we are running to the end of the race and to the checkered flag, I think drivers are going to be in a really good position to decide how to go about the battles. Will Soper not hanging back at all, though. Gianni Terhar, I don't think he expected a move to be made on him. I didn't really expect a move to be made on him either. But as they're on their way into the final couple of corners, they've got the GT4 of Justin Eloff right in front of them. But Terhar's had his pants pulled down there, hasn't he, by Will Soper?
Yeah, he's opportunistic, that for definite. So I think, again, coming up to these to lap the GT4 cars, I guess when you're doing it on a straight, it's fairly easy and straightforward. But when you're coming into that kind of tight, sort of twisty final sector of the circuit, you know, Gianni, I think, was hesitant. Should I go? Shouldn't I? And Will said, got the momentum, carried him through. And yeah, saw the opportunity, got alongside. I think there was a bit of paintwork exchange there. So, as Gianni looks like he's had a spin, trying to push on the back. Oh, really, really, really unfortunate. We did catch that live. We don't need to go back. So yeah, Gianni Tahar will not be a happy Gianni Tahar at all. That would have been that little bit of kind of pressure and battling that he was having with Will. Very, very, very unfortunate for Gianni indeed. So a bit too much juice coming out of the exit of the turn, and he is now a bumper missing, which on this circuit, Dara, I think will probably start to add drag along the straights, and I imagine won't be too comfortable for him.
No, but I think he's just got to muddle through to the pit stop, realistically. He's only going to be... You'd expect this and 2 more, I think, away from the pit stop. Maybe even just this and 1 more away from the pit stop. So I don't think it's really going to be worth taking a fast repair now. Taking it in the pit stop is likely going to be the best course of action. He does make his way through for the final time in this race. A little bit messy in behind, but yeah, it's not been a good day for Happy Dutchman, has it? It's fair to say, in the world of racing. I think Gianni Tahar's joining that list, for sure. Jaden Scotton may be looking to try and put himself into the top 5 very soon, all of a sudden, because Denzel Clarkson's just up the road, and all of a sudden Gianni Tahar's looking a little bit wounded up in front. Leskinen's through on Joe Glass, as Leskinen's actually fallen back into the grips of the Glass Tech entry. Not necessarily something I would have expected, but a bit of a mistake from Calais, because of course he was right up behind Jaden Scotton, now falling back, maybe trying to save a little bit of fuel towards the end of his second stint, but he is having to fight away with Joe Glass now. We'll see where that leaves him by the end of the stint. Oh, is he going to make a move? Not quite. Going to sit in behind and continue on with moves, though, in the GT4s, though. Kenyon's got through on Erloff, and also Stringer's got through on Dan Cross. So 2 moves in the GT4s inside the top 5.
Yeah, I noticed this just a few seconds ago that Martin Kenyon was up to 2nd place. So currently the Pro-Am team's leaders of Matt Hoyland and Martin Kenyon are sat in P3 in the GT3 class and P2 in the GT4. So a very, very, very strong statement from these guys of intent. So the JSD team will certainly know that they've got a battle on their hands, as Martin looks like he's got several GT4s right behind him, but he's also got Kalle Leskinen and Joe Glass working the way through as well. So as we jump on board with Joe is going to be trying to capitalise as Kalle flashes his lights to the GT4s to let them know he's coming through. I think Joe will get the job done before we get there, but I think what's going to happen here is that Justin Eloff's going to say, well, while they're coming through, I'm coming through as well, mate, and he has a look on the inside. Martin looks like he gets a little bit of a twitch there as they come through. The job's not done. Martin still holds the lead, but Justin is absolutely all over the back of him as they've got Zarumas Zelinskas coming round the outside. And this is the section that caught Gianni Tahar and Will Soper out. So Arumas is through, and then there's another GT3 car coming through, which is the teammate of Justin Eloff. So is there going to be a bit of team play coming into play as Josh Cowan looks up the inside of Martin Kenyon, and Martin manages to hold his position as Justin Eloff looks like he's going to go wide, or they're going to on the switchback. Has Justin got the exit? It does look like he's got a fantastic exit coming out the corner. He's got the run on Martin. He's going to be up on the inside for the first corner, but that's going to leave him on the outside for the second. And meanwhile, we've got Bobby Moss that sat behind saying, go on lads, off you go, as Justin Eloff almost loses the rear as he comes through. And that's job done, the overtake, and that is for P2 in class. So Martin Kenyon currently running in P3 with Bobby Moss right behind in P4.
No one's loving that more than Pedro Luis da Silva. He's got a 16-second lead on the top of that GT4 order, and he has just been so consistent throughout this race, and with William Humphrey's disconnection, it's enabled him to have a bit of an easy time for it in the lead. It's fair to say that if William Humphrey hadn't disconnected, it definitely would have been William's lead, if not for a battle with Pedro Luis da Silva. So I think Pedro's going to be pleased with where he is. Mighty Dan Cross is dropping down the order in the GT4s. Not entirely sure why. He may be living up to his name. If it's a mistake by him in that Mercedes car, we'll have to wait and see if it was a mistake or whether he was hit around, whatever could have happened through there. But regardless, Pedro Luis Silva doesn't mind. He's having a whale of a time at the front of the field. And the two leaders that we have in this race really have shown their class over the last half of an hour, because Yanis run away from Anton Kalo. Pedro Luis Silva has run away from Dustin Aloff, and he's looked pretty much impenetrable at the front of the field, and that gap impermeable, really, for Justin Aloff to try and find inroads, find ways to close that down, because the further we get into this race, more futile it seems to try and catch that kind of gap. 15 seconds, 35 minutes. It's going to take a monumental effort, but Justin Aloff has shown some good pace, and that gap has come down a little bit in the last lap or so, so there is a hope. But I think maybe Pedro Luis Silva just going to maybe save a bit of fuel, get himself that extra little bit of time off the pit stop, and see where he can get to in that final stint.
Yeah, so I've just noticed that Gianni Tahar was in this battle with Denzel Clarkson, and Gianni seems to be staying out. So obviously the car's drivable. He sat behind his kind of sister teammate, so he's obviously not feeling too much steering interference. But I wonder, Dara, if that Gianni used up his fast repair on his first pit stop. So any small incidents, if by any chance he'd not got the fast repair unticked when he made the pit stop, he may well not have a fast repair remaining. So this is going to be really interesting when it gets to that sort of 30, 25 minute mark to see if Gianni Tahar gets that car repaired at the same time, or is he going to have a repair time to sit and wait? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one to see.
I think it's fair to say he doesn't really want to have any kind of repair time. And it goes back to the conversation, I think we've had it before actually, James, haven't we, on one of these broadcasts about when do you use your fast repair? Because early on in the race, if you pick up a little bit of damage, but it's more than sustainable, is it worth taking the fast repair that early on? Do you wait until later on in the race to maybe use it, just in case something happens to the car that, it's out of your hands, unforeseen circumstances, however you want to call it, that would, be what you really want to be using that fast repair for? Because there's always that trade-off of drivers don't want to have to sit with a little bit of damage if they don't have to, but it's just that present risk of, if they do use that fast repair, have they used it too early? Is there something that's going to happen later on in the race that is worse for them and would, more in requirement of a fast repair? Something like a big shun into the wall, like we saw from Clyde Veyer, didn't we, through the fourth curve? So yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off that the drivers have to kind of rest themselves with, and decide relatively early on in the race how they're going to go about it, particularly with a 90-minute race as well. It's a long race. A lot of these drivers will generally do 30-minute races, maybe hour-long races, as we usually have here in the EGTC, but 90-minute races, it adds that little bit more thought time, and adds a little also the thought process about using those fast repairs. But I think the drivers, most of them, will maybe be using them towards the end of this race, or maybe we'll just keep them in the back pocket in case they get binned off on the final lap. We'll wait and see. Leskinen's come in the pit lane with 32.5 minutes to go. You'd expect he would have 9 laps to go from here. We'll see if he can get to the end. Maybe touch and go. He should be able to get the end. We'll have to wait and see. We're getting towards that final half an hour. Final pit stops, James.
They are, yeah. I'm just looking. So Kalle Leskinen's pit time was a 24.2 second pit time. So I think that Kalle will have comfortably enough to take a full tank on board to get him to the end of the race, as Matthew Croft comes out driving Andre Muntian's NSX. So we got Grant asking in the chat why he's using Andre's livery, and that's because in this series, as a reserve driver, they are obliged to use the same car and the same livery, just to help us commentators, so that we don't get all confused. We get confused anyway as it is, so we certainly don't need any more confusion, shall we say. As Robin Aston comes out, Robin has had a 45-second pit time, so Robin must have had damage, and that's Matthew Croft way up the road now. They were having a little battle earlier. So yeah, the first driver in the GT3 class who has made their 2 mandatory pit stops, or shall we say fuel mandatory pit stops, is Kalle Leskinen. And Kalle was previously battling with Joe Glass. So it's going to be interesting to see where Joe comes out. Joe looks like he's got a Rumus Zelinskas for company. So once again, we'll have a look at the back end of Joe's number 10. as Arumas is only a tenth behind. It doesn't get much closer than this. Rizzler paper width as he looks to pull out alongside, gets alongside Joe in on the inside of the right, which leads him nicely into the left, and that's job done for P8 for Arumas Zelinskas. So again, after that early incident, Arumas is making a good recovery up to P8, Joe Glass P9. Gianni Terhar, meanwhile, is continuing. So he is continuing. He's running that P7 with that broken bumper. So we shall see. And we'll see at the bottom of the screen as the drivers start popping in the pit times. Let's have a look down at the GT4s. So we've got Chris Jennings, who's worked his way up to P8. So Chris has managed to stay with that group. These have been battling, Dara, all the way through. Chris Jennings, Nick Stubb, Linus Petkovicius. Dan Cross has dropped off the back, had that bit of an incident, as I think you kind of recognise. But yeah, Nick Stubb currently leading the way of this trio, as it looks like Linus Petkovicius is going to have a look down the inside of Chris Jennings, and he does. He gets the job done on the inside. So we have caught one overtake on stream at least tonight. But yeah, and then Evan Main, single-man team at the moment. Single-man team Evan. Evan's doing a really great job here running P6 in his BMW. Got a nice little lead of 2.8 seconds over Nick Stubb. But he is 6.7 behind Ryan Stringer. So you'd have to think with only 29 minutes to go that for Evan, this would be trying to consolidate P6 and maybe hoping for some incidents from the guys in front that are still battling away. And we've got Martin Kenyon that's managed to get back around Justin Eloff. So this is a fantastic battle from these three. I bet Martin's absolutely loving this battle, Dara.
Yeah, he's going to be enjoying this no end, I'm sure, but they've got to be wary because Ryan Stringer's the kind of driver I think we would expect to really put himself in the mix and put himself ahead maybe of a couple of these guys if they come to blows in this GT4 battle. I think it's worth noting as well that if Evan is on his own, is that when we have to call Evan the main man, James? I think it is.
See what you've done there. It's a bit early for a pun.
And I'm not gonna. Oh god, it's been an hour. I think I've been held back long enough.
Fair point.
But no, he's doing a great job, isn't he, in P6? But a driver I want to keep an eye out for is Linus Petkovicius. He always seems to be the fuel whisperer in this field. He always seems like he's able to drive that car a little bit longer than the rest. So let's see if he's able to that car maybe an extra lap compared to some of the drivers around him to shorten off that pit stop time and maybe get himself ahead of Chris Jennings and Nick Stubber, who were both ahead in front of him. That'll get him through on Chris Jennings. Chris Jennings just put himself into the wall. I think he wanted to go see the football. That is the football stadium on the inside of the corner at Turch Rouge. But it's June, the season's over, and realistically for Chris, his race is effectively over, isn't it?
Gutted for Chris. Absolutely gutted for him. It does seem that there's definitely something when we put the camera on, because we don't normally catch that many incidents, do we? So yeah, something's either going well or not well. It's like the sorry not sorry kind of approach. But yeah, we're here to cover the action, but unfortunately it just seems to bring a little bit of bad luck with it, as we've got Stephen Donnelly here being overtaken by his teammate Joe Sparrow from the JSD team. So Stephen currently down in P10. Got to be honest, Dara, I think that Stephen might be a bit disappointed with P10. I think Stephen would be hoping for kind of top 5, top 6 in this GT4 class, and we know he's absolutely got the pace, as it looks like he's going to have a look down the inside of Dan Cross. Dan says, I don't think so, Mr. Donnelly. You might have Haribo on the side, but you're definitely not coming through there, sunshine. So yeah, that's it. Dan Cross keeps himself ahead, and Stephen will be getting probably more and more frustrated with this. Yeah, P10 a little while behind where he would probably expect to be, as we've still got this battle going on between Bobby Moss, Martin Kenyon and Justin Eloff. So yeah, these guys, there's absolutely nothing to separate them, and I think the guy that's going to be most frustrated out of this group is actually going to be Ryan Stringer that's just sat off the back, because looking at lap times previously, Ryan does have the same pace as the guys in front. He's almost must be praying for them to start battling so that he can actually get up alongside. And so what is he currently? He's 2.8 seconds off these battling three. So yeah, that's going to be quite a bit to make up, I think, in the next 25 minutes. I think he's probably hoping for some sort of incident, which you shouldn't do. But when you see people battling ahead of you, it kind of crosses your mind sometimes, and you think, well, if it comes, I'll take it.
Yeah, it needs must sometimes. When obviously you don't necessarily want to see competitors, have an unfortunate moment, fall down the order. However, sometimes, and if you've been driving around for an hour, doing your best to get yourself as close to that podium as you possibly can, stage of the race, you might be forgiven for wanting a bit of a moment for somebody up in front of you, just to get yourself involved, really, in the battling. There is battling that will be ongoing between Matt Hoyland and Will Soper, though. Matt Hoyland's got those tyres very much up to temperature. Is he going to be able to find a way through on Will Soper through the Turch Rouge? Yes, the answer is no. I think the next chance for him might be down at the first of the Mulsanne chicanes, and to get a good run through there, you've got to get a good run out of this corner at Turch Rouge, and let's see if he can get a nice slipstream. He's close. Not sure whether he's going to be close enough to make any kind of run, but this is a battle that could run for the podium positions by the end of this race. 24 minutes to go. And like I kind of touched upon at the start of the race and at the start of the broadcast when we talked about the track and how much dead time you have, once you're almost chasing time and chasing a car in front of you at a track like Le Mans, 24 minutes will disappear. Half of that time will be spent going in a straight line at full throttle. We are not really making too much of a gain on the driver in front. So you can look up at that time, and unless you're looking up at it on every single straight, it's going to feel like it's going pretty quickly, because those chances are going to be few and far between, and you're going to feel like you've got far less opportunity to move in the final 24 minutes at Le Mans as you might at Zandvoort, for example. So yeah, I think we're going to see drivers really start to push on now, but the next 5-10 minutes is going to be crucial whether we could see any moves happen in the final 10-15 minutes of this race.
Well, this is it. They've all pitted, so all of the GT3 drivers have now taken their pit stop. So we were too busy rattling away about Martin and Bobby and Ryan that we actually missed all of the pit stops. And in that pit stop round, Will Soper has managed to jump Matt Hoyland. So Matt was running P3, I think he pitted earlier, and then Will Soper took a shorter pit stop time of only 21.9 seconds was Will's stationary time. Matt Hoyland's stationary time was 26.05. So yeah, Matt's taken on a lot more fuel. So Will, as long as Will can get to the end, that looks like it could have put him in contention for a podium. But Matt Hoyland says, I don't think so, pal, because that's mine and I'm having it back, as he follows him here with hardly anything between them. So yeah, this is going to run out for the next 22 minutes. I don't know how the lap calculations are going to work in terms of how many laps we're going to have. I guess if it falls really unfortunate, Dara, and we have to have one more lap, that is going to be pretty significant in terms of fuel consumption for these guys.
It will, and I think we could be seeing a few splashes and dashes if that is the situation that we find ourselves in by the end of the race. I think my mind is cast back when I think about running out of fuel, running out of energy, to a Formula E race over, I think it was over the COVID period, where you'd watch anything and everything on the telly, and everybody ran out of fuel on the last lap, apart from about 3 ran out of energy on the last lap. I don't think that'll happen, of course, because drivers will probably have to do a splash and dash, and they'll know when to do that. However, if drivers push it just that little bit too far, which they pretty well may do, in the hope of gaining a couple of positions, we could see a couple of drivers spluttering their way towards the line come the end of the race, and that may be something that a couple of drivers will be looking to avoid, let's say, if they have been miscalculated the fuel, or calculated for an hour and a half but not an hour and 34 minutes, if that's what it comes down to. So yeah, very interesting scenarios could still play out in the final seconds, past the end of the hour and 30 minutes that we had for this race. So that there's no reason for us not to be still excited for what could happen in this one. And it's been a really quite engaging race, isn't it, in the first hour or so here. You know, I think we all thought Le Mans, 90 minutes, it may start to fall away in terms of what we're looking at in terms of battles towards the end of the race, but really dry battle. We've still got this podium battle in the GT4s. We're not a million miles away from a podium battle in the GT3s. Likes of Stubb, Petkavicius, they've just made moves on each other actually. Petkavicius is up into the top 6, and we've still got these pit stops for the GT4s. There's 20 minutes to go. A lot to play for.
Yeah, and Martin Kenyon actually pitted on the previous lap. So Martin's coming around now as he comes into the final sector, and he got himself into the pits and away. I was just away looking at the timing tower there because I could see that Martin had dropped off massively. And then I couldn't see any incidents at all, and I've just worked out that Martin has done his second pit stop with a 33-second stationary pit time. So Martin will now be coming up on the two guys that he was battling with earlier, which is Justin Eloff and Bobby Moss, both of which are still in the pit. So Pedro Luis da Silva comes out, maintains the lead of the GT4 category. We've got Justin Eloff and Bobby Moss right behind him. So has Pedro taken tyres? Because that gap has closed right up now. And where is Martin Kenyon going to come past? And Martin is only just coming out the final corner. So Martin looks like he's lost out Dara there in those final pit stops. So I don't know if maybe Bobby Moss and Justin Eloff had been doing a bit more fuel saving and didn't need to take on quite as much, but they've definitely cleared Martin now. But what it has meant is that Justin Eloff is only 4.9 seconds behind Pedro Luis da Silva with 18 minutes to go. Is that long enough?
I think so. I mean, we're talking about 15 seconds and 35 minutes. All of a sudden, let's call it 5 and 20 minutes, let's just say. That's definitely bloatable. It's difficult, again, at a track like Le Mans. You spend so much time going in a straight line where you can't really gain or lose much time that it could be difficult. He's going to have to do a lot of the work in the corners. And if Pedro Luis has taken tyres, then he's going to be that little bit faster in the traction zones. He's going to feel that little bit more comfortable in that flatline racing BMW car. But Justin Eloff has that carrot firmly dangling in front of his face. And that incentive is going to drive him all the way home here. And we've got 18 minutes to go. Yannis Albert, I'm sure, James, if you could just show where Yannis Albert is on the circuit, we'll be able to get a good read of how many laps we have. Oh, there we go. Perfectly timed that. So if he's crossing the line now, and we're going at 4 minutes a lap, we've got 5 laps to go here at the front of the field from Yannis Albert. So there's 5 laps to go for everybody in behind in the GT3 field. And for some of them, that means that they'll be crossing the line to start the final lap after the end of the 1 hour 30 minutes. So there's a very good chance that there may be a slight miscalculation from them there, because if they were expecting a set number of laps, but yet the race leader's going that much faster than they would, you could see some difficulties there, not least for the likes of Lewis Plath and Andrew Fellows, who are somewhat 3/4 of a lap down, maybe 2/3 of a lap down. Actually, that's more likely to be a kinder number. But that's going to be an interesting, idea that we're going to have to watch towards the end of this race. And for Pedro Luis da Silva, Justin Eloff and Bobby Moss, they're going to be close to being lapped one more time by Yannis Albert. They're going at about, give or take 20 seconds slower a lap. And if we're then talking about 5 more laps, that's nearly half of a lap, so it could be touch and go for them as to whether they are lapped one more time, and that could be important for their fuel numbers, depending on how much fuel they put into the car. So definitely some interesting strategy decisions that we haven't yet seen come to fruition necessarily. We'll see who's done it, who's played it the best, who's maybe gone for a little bit too much in the end.
Yeah, so we just saw that Will Soper has lost out to Matt Hoyland. So we'll have a quick look at that and see exactly how that overtake was done. And it was Will got the exit of the final corner, got it too far out onto the gravel, and Matt Hoyland says, "Thank you very much, I'm through. That's me done." And that's Matt Hoyland back onto the podium. So, and it looks like he's pulled out. He's pulled out a 1.3 second gap on Will. So is that Matt cementing the podium with 16 minutes to go? We shall see. We also had Callum Morrow, who's had a bit of an incident. Let's have a check with Callum to see what's happened to Callum as he's coming through the final sector. Looks like it's into the final. Oh, just gets it wrong onto the final corner. So a bit of a spin out for Callum. So a shame about that. Nobody else involved. So gets himself back on the track. No damage done. Just a little bit of lost time. So Denzel Clarkson currently running in P5. So really up 3 places. So he'll be pleased with that. Gianni Terhar, unfortunately, down 4 places. But that will be to do with that incident that we caught on stream. So not a bad recovery though, not a bad recovery from the team's championship leader. So Gianni running P6 and his teammate Tristan Engelstadt running in P10 in the GT4s. So yeah, not gone fantastic for the Quad Dash Racing team, who were the leaders in the team's championship. A team that it has gone fantastic for is Yannis Albert, as always, running at the front, but Bobby Moss, P3. So Bobby will be absolutely delighted with this, getting back onto the form that we know he's capable of, and also capitalising while Marius Hibmer is not present as well. So yeah, Bobby Moss running in P3, but he's got Ryan Stringer just behind him. I say just behind him, it's 2.2 seconds behind him, but nevertheless, that gap is coming down a little bit. Justin hasn't managed to close that gap too much on Pedro, so that might have been the tyres, Dara, that Pedro's taken. Maybe he didn't take any at his first stop, but he is taking some at the second stop, which has kind of led him to be able to maintain that gap. It's down to 4.6 seconds. I think it was 4.9 last time, so he's only gained 0.3 in probably 10 minutes. So as long as Pedro has a reasonable run, keeps himself out of trouble, this looks like it could be a fantastic result for the Portuguese driver.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to be able to consolidate this one towards the end of the race. And what a fantastic job it really has been from him. Yes, he's had that little bit of luck from hopefully disconnecting it in the early stages of the race, because he really looked like he was going to be a contender. There were a couple of drivers that really looked like they could come to the fore towards the start, the likes of Tristan Engelstadt, who were caught up in that collision off of the start. But and Thomas Noakes as well, mind you, who qualified P2, of course. But they, of course, with that incident, haven't really been able to recover and are still P10 and P15. And Sir Petro Luis Silva just kept his head and has showed exactly why he has been the driver that has been steadily improving race by race over the last month or so. So he's definitely got to keep an eye on as we run towards the end of this championship. We'll also keep an eye on this Will Soper battle alongside Matt Hoyland, because Soper has nailed that final corner this time around, got to the inside line for the opening corner, and has retaken that P3. 4 laps to go for him, and there's definitely still a chance for Will to get himself, well, stay on the podium. He won't be up towards the back of Anton Kalo unless Anton makes one absolutely monumental error. But there is still those 4 laps to go, so anything can still happen. Okay, Anton, again, consistent result. He's not been able to match Yannis Albert in the last few weeks, but P2 is still going to be good enough to keep him very much at the lead of the championship, extending that lead ahead of the P2. Whoever's in P2, which should be Yannis Albert by the end of this race, but that gap to second place will have increased from what it was, which was already 50 points. So Anton's going to be pretty pleased with how it's going, and there'll only be 4 rounds to go. If he can keep up this kind of performance, he can't be beaten in the championship.
Yeah, and I think one of the drivers I want to give a bit of a shout out to is Andy Chell for Quartermass Motorsport. So I think P15 in this field, P15, but he's not pitted. There you go, Dora. I was thinking, yeah, Andy must have had an absolute storming second sector. So Andy's going to come in the pits now. It looks like Andy must have had an incident early doors, because Andy has already taken 2 pit stops. So we'll see where he comes out. Because I was going to say that might be Andy's best result so far, but I didn't catch that he'd still got 1 more pit stop to make. Some other drivers that we've not mentioned on the stream very much is Nick Scott filling in for Ben Bennyworth. So it doesn't look like it's been the debut that Nick was looking for, but nevertheless, he's still going and he's still persisting with it. Currently in P21, just sat outside the points there. So, but nevertheless, good to have Nick with us and racing with us as a reserve. Each reserve gets a maximum of 2 appearances, so we'll probably see Nick out on track for one more appearance before the end of the season. And also Adam Baker, shout out to Adam. Adam's doesn't look like he's had much a look of the draw tonight. Adam races also in one of our other GT3 championships, and I know that Adam's got really, really good pace. So yeah, for the LS Racing 002 team, shout out to Adam, and hopefully next time out a little bit better result and a bit better luck, Adam. So in the meanwhile, Matt Hoyland is not giving this up at all, so I don't know whether he's going to be in chat. He'll probably be in with Martin for sure. I don't know whether he's got Rob Mackay and the likes of Danny Weir in his ear giving him some stick, but yeah, Matt will be pushing for the podium, that is for definite. And it looks like that Porsche's got a little bit of legs on the Corvette there. So yeah, good exit for Will, and as we're coming into the final sector, the Porsche's definitely going to probably handle better as it runs through the Porsche curves. As Matt does look like he draws a little bit closer initially, and then Will is going to get the exit out. I mean, it's going to be a tough one, Dara, for Matt, really, because with 9 minutes to go, you know, we are talking about a podium. There are more points on offer tonight. Does Matt start thinking about the team's championship, or does he think, sod it, I'm just going to go for it and I want that P3?
I mean, it's a fair question, isn't it? I think for Matt, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think what you've said is entirely correct. There's both sides that you can see to this argument. You know, Will Soper looks like he's had that little bit more pace over the last 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes in total, but Matt Hoyland's not been making as many mistakes. Will Soper has given the position away to Hoyland through just going wide a couple of times, that rear end stepping out once or twice. So he's been the one that's almost been under a little bit of pressure and has been more prone to making that mistake. If you're Matt Hoyland, I don't think you would send it anywhere, but you just keep Will Soper under pressure. You keep plugging away at maybe his confidence levels, really, because he knows he's made those mistakes. He knows it's possible, and he knows that Matt knows that he's waiting for a mistake. So, you know, it can all get into your head, really, for Will Soper particularly. So if you're Matt Hoyland, you know, I think the play really is just to sit behind and wait for a mistake. If it doesn't come, oh well, you've picked up P4. If it comes, you know, woohoo, podium place. And the DXT team are back on one of the most famous podiums in the world of motorsport here at Le Mans. So, yeah, I think you could see it both ways, but I think definitely that waiting for that mistake is probably the best way to go about it. Mind you, the likes of Gianni Terhar probably less likely to wait for it, because he would expect himself to be a little bit higher up the order. P5, I think, is a bare minimum for him in this race, and to get through on Denzel Clarkson would be just a brick in the road back to where he would expect to be. Of course, it's really his cap in this race, with Hoyland and Soper so far in front, but a nice move to the inside line will get him there. Let's see if he can hold on to it. He's got another 2.5 laps to go to make sure that he can. Denzel, I'm not too sure he's going to let that one go too easily, though.
Yeah, I don't think Denzel's going to fight him too hard there. I'll just read in the chat there, we've got Rob and Danny saying that Matt does want that P3. So, yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. We'll try and keep an eye on it to the end. He wants the P3 for the team's championship. So, all out war, basically, Dara. He's going to go for it. So, let fuel permitting, let's hope that he manages to stay right on the back of Will. And that's going to make the last lap extremely interesting. Meanwhile, we've got Aruma Salinskas right on the back of Jaden Scotton as well. So, again, now it's coming to the time, 6 minutes to go. It's going to be an interesting one to see whether these guys are going to leave it until the last lap, or are they going to try and get alongside as Arumus has a little look around the outside, thinks better of it. Jaden gets into the corner and Arumus is thinking, no, next time. So, yeah, this is going to get really, really close for these guys. I don't think Denzel's going to battle Gianni Terhar too much. And in the GT4s, the main battle that we've got on track looks to be Dan Cross and Nick Stubb. Dan has not been present all of the rounds of the championship so far. He's missed quite a few, so I don't know whether Nick will be too bothered about trying to get that place, but as the guys have already pointed out in the chat, it's all about the team's points, so every single position does count on track, which is one thing I really like about this championship, is that the classes only come into play in the actual teams championship, whereas when you're fighting all the drivers in your own car class in front of you, every position counts. So yeah, will we see Nick Stubb trying to close that gap down? I'm not sure. Meanwhile, Justin Aloff has just held that gap to Pedro Luis da Silva at 4.4 seconds. So with only 5 minutes to go, hoping that nothing happens to Pedro, that should be a win being claimed for him. Fingers crossed. He's had a fantastic race. Yes, he has capitalised on Williams' hardware issue, but it'll bring the championship right back into contention for all the guys with Marius and William and Pedro. Be really, really spicing up nice for the last 4 rounds.
It has, and I think we're going to be quite excited going to the next few rounds. I think next time out at Barcelona, definitely an exciting race in prospect. It's a track that is, I think, really quite good for endurance racing. I say endurance racing, for multi-class racing. Yes, it's an hour-long race, but I think it's going to be quite an exciting prospect. GTs go quite well around there as well, so I think drivers are going to be targeting that one as one to look out for. And it is a circuit that I think many people will know quite well, whether they've driven it in iRacing or not. I think many motorsport fans, whether through Formula 1, MotoGP, through GT championships, through endurance championships, will know the circuit de Barcelona Catalunya quite well. And so I think it's a track where we're going to see drivers really perform at their max, but also a track where there isn't going to be a lot of time between some of these cars, and I think we're going to see quite a few of the teams and the drivers maybe be a little bit out of position in qualifying, and it's going to lead to quite an exciting race. Leskinen's had to come into the pit lane. Could this be a symptom of a couple of drivers maybe not being able to get to the end here, because we have got 2 more laps to go for Kalle Leskinen, but there's less than a lap to go in terms of the time for Leskinen. So, yeah, is this a theme we're going to see, or is it just going to be an isolated driver or two? I think that's going to be quite interesting to find out in a sec.
Well, we're going to find out on this lap. So Yanis is going to cross the line, and I'm guessing that this is going to be the last lap. The next lap is going to be the last lap. Meanwhile, we've not noticed it, but from the timing tower, Joe Glass has had an incident, and Joe Glass is in the pits. Let's have a look what happened to Joe. Joe's coming down the straight. Looks like he loses it all on his own. So that is really, really unfortunate for Joe, and he goes back into the tyre barrier, and I think Joe had got damaged because he did actually tow back to the pit. So gutted for Joe after a decent drive out, and after what was probably 1 hour 25 minutes to happen in the last 5 minutes is gutting. So whether Joe didn't take tyres or just, don't know, we shall have to see. As Yanis comes over the line now, this is where we're going to see, Dara, if we've got some drivers that need, and we've got a couple more of the GT3 drivers. We've got Louis Plath and Andrew Fellows also having to come in and do a splash and dash. So is that an indication? Are we going to see Yanis coming in, or has Yanis just got it just perfect? Let's have a look as Yanis comes round now. We've got the GT4 battle going on ahead of him. No, Yanis is going to go around. So as we jump on board with Yanis, we think this is going to be the last lap flag. And it's not, Dara. It's not. We've got 2 more.
Well, whether they showed it or not, there's definitely 1 lap to go. There's 2 minutes on the clock. It's a 4-minute lap. So I'm not... Yeah, I agree. I didn't see the white flag,
No,
but it's got to be white flag. Otherwise... we're going to cross the line again with an hour and 32 minutes a lap. So I would presume this to be the final lap of the race. Yeah.
Let's have a look.
And to be honest, I don't.
Who's the next driver that's going to be crossing the line? Let's find someone.
Anton. But to be honest, I don't even think it would have mattered if Jonas Verstappen needed a splash and dash, because he's got a 42-second lead. He probably could have come in and out before the. Before anybody else came through. Where is there a white flag on the left-hand side? Is there? I think it's in hand for Barney up there in the flag tower.
He's just thinking about it.
He's just not waving it. He's bored. He's been up there too long. I think he's forgotten what the time is, where he is, and he might need a concussion test. Hoyland's got through on Will Soper again at the final corner. We've seen that one before, and on to the final lap we go. Can Hoyland hold on for 4 minutes here? on the ahead of Will Soper. Soper's going to have, you'd think, 5 good overtaking opportunities to get this one done. 3 of them are going to come down the Mulsanne. He's not able to get it done through the Dunlop S, and Hoyland's going to be, driving on his mirrors for the last tour of this circuit.
He definitely is. And another driver is Ryan Stringer, because he promised that he was going to try and get on the podium to get an interview, and he has got himself currently onto the podium, but at the same time he's got Bobby Moss right behind him. So this is going to be for P2 in the GT4 class. So all of these 3 drivers are going to want to make sure that they're at least on the podium, and unfortunately one of them is going to miss out. So fingers crossed that this all goes well. So all stays clean, shall we say, but one of them is definitely going to be just off the podium, as Justin Eloff looks like he's got the run on Ryan Stringer, which he does. Bobby Moss is tucking in as well. Justin's going to go to the inside, and Ryan covers it off nicely. So yeah, very, very, very close battle from these 3 guys. And for a minute there, Dara, I thought Pedro had run out of fuel, but it was just the camera angle. So yeah, Pedro's holding that 4.7 second lead. So yeah, we're going to have to try and keep up with all of these. Let's jump back on board with Will Soper and see where they are. Looks like Matt's managed to put a bit of a gap in. So that might be Hoyland clear. We've got Gianni Terhar on his sister teammate, Denzel Clarkson, who got back past Gianni Terhar. We've got 2 drivers into the pits, which looks like Matthew Croft has been into the pits for a splash and dash. Behind these guys, we've got Aruma Salinskas and Jaden Scotton battling as Gianni Terhar pulls alongside Denzel Clarkson and says, "No, I am coming through," and Denzel says, "No, you're not." Takes the wide entry. Oh, this is going to get close. This is going to get close. And the same as the battle behind him between Jaden and Arumas.
Yeah, but they've not got long to settle them, and I think, Yanis doesn't care about these at all. He's going to come around the final few corners in a second. While he comes around the final few corners, we'll wait to see if Gianni can close up before Indianapolis. But again, what a drive it's been. It's going to be 4 in a row for Yanis Albert, and he's going to win this race by over 45 seconds. He's taken over half a second out of anybody every single minute of this race, and for the 4th time in a row, Yanis Albert is your winner here in the European GT Championship. And he stakes yet another claim to his championship aspirations. Anton Kalo is a mile away, quite literally, but he will be looking to, maintain his championship lead and pull away from the rest just about. We'll have to see if he can do that next week. It's going to be that little bit more difficult. Pedro Luis de Silva, though, P1 in the end for the Portuguese driver. He drove away. He took advantage of William Humphrey's unfortunate disconnection, and he has delivered with a win. Ryan Stringer as well delivered on a P2, and to get him into the booth after the race now, James, after a podium for him. Bobby Moss P3 as well means that the Minecraft Racing team picking up a win and a P3. But with the GT4 leader just behind the GT3 leader, it means all of the GT4s are going to find themselves pretty much on the lead lap compared to their rival. And James, as we still see drivers come through, as we see P3 and GT3 come to the line, Ryan Stringer's already in the interview booth waiting room, isn't he? He's keen. He's a keen man.
Of course he is. As Hoyland does secure that P3, so the DXT guys will be absolutely loving that. Marty Kenyon, his teammate, P6 in the GT4 class. Gianni Terhar managed to get that P6, didn't manage to overtake his sister team, Denzel. Aruma Zelinskas in 7th, Jaden Scotton in 8th. Let's have a look at Josh Cowan as we come through. Josh is coming through for Axis X RDSA, Justin Eloff's teammate. He's going to come through and take P9. And Joe Sparrer, the dangerous one himself, he's going to come through in P10. So reasonable result from Joe Sparrer there. I can imagine Joe is not going to be too disappointed with that. Maybe like a couple more places, but a good solid P10 for the JSD Racing team in their quest for that Pro-Am Championship. And we've then got Kalle Leskinen. Kalle Leskinen coming through, had to do that splash and dash for Flatline Racing Pink. He's followed through by Chris Jennings, I think it is. We've then got Matthew Jones. So lovely to see Matt back out on track. I have done a few broadcasts in the past with Mr. Jones. I can't vouch for how serious they were, but we certainly had some fun doing them. So yeah, as Matt comes across in P12, looks like Matt might be carrying a slight bit of damage there. We got Matthew Croft. He's having a little battle with Andy Chell. So that incident for Joe Glass has actually promoted all of these drivers up one. So we've got Matthew Croft coming through in P13. So he'll be scoring good points there for his team as a reserve driver. And Andy Chell, P14. I think Clyde Veyer had an incident, another incident after the one that we caught on stream. So that puts Andy up into P14. So a great performance from him, considering that he's had 3 pit stops. As Matt comes across the line, Andy is going to closely follow him, and then we'll jump on with Clyde Veyer as he comes through. He looks like he's followed through by Dean Tyler to get P15 and P16, and I think Dean Tyler may be the final driver to cross the line. No, we've got Max Nevencharny. Not been a brilliant night for Max with his incident early on, but absolutely brilliant to see him back racing with ESR. We've raced with Max a few times in the TCR class and the GT4s. So yeah, really good to see the Portuguese driver back on board with us. Managed to finish the race, which is probably a damn sight more than I would have managed. So brilliant for finishing. And then I think Daniel Poole, I seem to remember it was Daniel Poole last time, Dara, that was the driver that we had to follow at the end to get the results up.
It very well may have been, but he will be the last guy to come through across the line. He's in the Flatline Racing pink entry, and he will finish in P21 in the end, but on the lead lap, would you believe? I mean, there's always that to take home with you and, you know, tell the family about. But he will be the final driver to cross the line, and then we can get some classified results from this race after, in the end, about an hour and 36 minutes worth of racing. When all is said and done for Daniel Poole, in a GT4, it's that little bit easier, isn't it, to get it that little bit longer on the fuel. Here are the results then in the GT3s, and there's only one man within a minute of our race winner, and it was Yannis Hilbert for the Minecraft Racing team again. He's got 3 1s in his number, but he might need 4 by the time we get to the next race, because he's got 4 P1s in a row, and he is looking unstoppable at the moment. Anton Keller still leads the Drivers' Championship and has won all the races that Yannis Hilbert has not been in. And they are the only 2 drivers to win a race this season, and they were 1 and 2 tonight. Matt Hoyland got onto the podium with a last lap, in effect, overtake on Will Soper. The Axis Cohenhead driver is going to be not terribly pleased with how it's gone for him. Denzel Clarkson's just ahead of Gianni Terhar, and I don't think the Dutchman will be pleased either with how it's gone for him after looking like he could have picked up a podium tonight once again. Orimash Gas, Jayden Scott and Joshua Cohen and Joe Sparr rounded out the top 10. They were just about lap away from our race winner. Kalle Leskinen, he will be maybe pleased, maybe disappointed with P11. He was looking for a little bit more by the end. He finishes in P11 ahead of Matthew Jones and Matthew Croft, Andy Chell, Clyde Veyer and Dean Tyler, the only other drivers on the lead lap in the end. Lewis Plath was a lap down in P17. He was joined on that mark by Robin Aston, who follows Adam Baker and Nick Scott. Joe Glass was the final classified driver, sadly for him, 2 laps down in P22. And over in the GT4s, it was a day to remember for not just Nailoff. There's a few more drivers just above, just Nailoff. And James Wilshire, there he is, Pedro Luis da Silva, the Portuguese driver, winning by 4 seconds in the end. That did come down. He had 15 seconds in hand for a time, but in the end he won by 4 seconds ahead of Ryan Stringer. Doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you get it done. But Stringer, who we will get in for an interview shortly, was P2 ahead of Bobby Moss, who rounded off the podium. Justin Aloff was ahead of Linus Petkovicius, but these guys were all involved in the battle all race long. They were ahead of Martin Kenyon, Evan Main and Dan Cross. 8 drivers within half a minute. In fact, with Nick Stubb and Tristan Engelstadt within 40 seconds, the winning margin in the GT3s was bigger than the margin between 1st and 10th in the GT4s. Stephen Donnelly was 11th ahead of Malcolm Coates and Niels Kula, Thomas Noakes, Callum Morrow and Simon Hunt were all within half a lap, I should say, of the race lead, and Chris Jennings was also involved in that in P17. Pete over Ian Chambers, next in Johnny, and Daniel Poole were on the lead lap. He finished in P21. Sean Clark was P22. And the only casualty of the race from the drivers that we started with was a casualty to the internet. William Humphrey, 15 laps down in the end. Not what he was going to be looking for, but that is how we sit. And after 90 minutes of racing, James, I think we can have some very happy drives after that one.
Yeah, we always say it, Dora, don't we, at the end, that it's gone really quick. It didn't feel like it at the beginning, but towards the end, as the race started coming together and the pit strategies all came together, yeah, great night's racing, and as per usual, Yannis Olbert showing the rest of the field exactly how to do it, but nevertheless, some brilliant racing up and down the field. So I guess that we need to move some driver interviews, none more important than Ryan Stringer, because we did promise him last time. So while you're sort of bringing Ryan in for the first interview, I'll try and get all the cameras and everything ready, Dora.
Sounds good. We will plan for Mr. Ryan Stringer, who has been sitting he's nearly been sitting waiting in the interview booth as long as he was racing here at Le Mans, quite frankly. He has been there from the second he crossed the line. I've never seen anybody move faster into an interview booth. And we will reward that with an interview. We'll allow James a moment to get all of the cameras ready. I think he has. We've got the replay graphic. Are we about to see Ryan Stringer? Are we? There he is. The 690 is on the screen, which means we'll grab him in from the waiting room. Ryan Stringer, feel less bad welcoming you in now that you've got the podium, but first of all, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Stuff. Well, second of all, really, the first question, really, talk through that last lap, because you were looking like it was a really tight battle inside that top five. Were you expecting a podium in the final lap or so, or did you really were you surprised being able to get into the top two?
No, to be honest, I was going into the race, I was like, I'm going to get P2, because my race pace that I'd seen throughout the week, I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then qualified down the pack, then the lap one murders, I was like, it's not going to go anywhere for me. And out of nowhere, William Humphreys just DC'd, and then I had a mess up in the pit stop. It cost me like 10 seconds. And then the last stint, I was just pushing like no tomorrow to get but getting both of them down the Mulsanne was the godsend for me.
I mean, this must do a world of good for you in terms of confidence and boost for the team, really, going to the final few rounds of the championship. Of course, it's been a bit of a difficult season if you're a GT4 with William Humphrey, performing week after week. But to get onto the podium at Le Mans, I mean, to be at Le Mans, it must be that little bit more special, right?
It really is. I mean, everyone's been quite secretive of what lap times they're doing. I was kind of hoping that Marius was going to be in the race, because I knew that me and him were very level on pace coming in, and then out of nowhere he dropped out, and then the first lap crash, I was just like, I'm gonna get it, and then I was like, no, I'm not gonna get it. And then all of a sudden it came to me, and I was just like, I'll take that with the headache I had throughout the race.
James, I'm going to bring you in now, because a podium's no mean feat, particularly in that GT4 class. And to do it on the last lap as well, that's not bad, is it?
Very impressive. Very, very impressive. Very good evening, Ryan, and congratulations. I've only got one question for you, which is not how long did you wait last week and we didn't even invite you in. That's not the question that I'm going to ask you.
I've waited 3 weeks for this.
I know. I tell everybody every week it's Dora's in charge. Dora's in charge.
Sorry.
But no, on a serious note, we were following the battle between you and I think Justin Eloff and Bobby Moss all the way through, and then we had to cut some of the other action as the guys were coming close to the line. But tell us a little bit about what happened in that last sort of half of the lap, because it just looked absolutely manic between you three.
It really started off with like 3 or 4 laps to go. I mean, I could see the gap between me and Pedro was like 10.5 seconds. It was 5 seconds to Bobby and 8 seconds to Justin, and then I started seeing Justin's time just drop. I was like, oh, he must be fuel saving, because the fuel calculators kept going up down because it was quite hit and miss if Yanis was going to get past us. But we come to the Mulsanne, and I was like, Bobby, we're going to work together here. We're going to push for it. Bobby had a bit of a fight with me, but I think earlier on the breaks into the chicanes really helped me get the good exit, and I had to cover off Justin the Mulsanne hairpin, Mulsanne corner, and then I was clear, and I was like, come on Bobby, right behind me, and then out of nowhere I just see 2 cars sideways and a load of smoke, and I was like, no, Bobby's lost it, and I brought it back, and I was just like, my whole body was shaking, and I was just like, no, it's not happened to me at this track.
Well, brilliant result, mate. Absolutely brilliant result. And you provided us with some fantastic racing for us to kind of follow your progression throughout. We obviously didn't catch absolutely all of it, but we hope you enjoy watching it back later anyway. Before we let you go, mate, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to live on the broadcast?
I would like to give a shout out to my lovely partner and children that are in the other room with my one of my close mates at the moment. And I was kind of hoping that I got the first interview because I have to drop her home. And a big shout out to Brooksy for taking us on as affiliates in the past 2 weeks. So it's good for us to get that kind of result to show the company off.
That's brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, congratulations again on tonight, and we will maybe see you for an interview in another couple of weeks' time.
Hopefully. I don't even know what track it is.
Well, we're not telling you. You've got to go and find it.
Oh. It's a mystery puzzle now.
All right. Have a good evening, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was the I'm seemingly very happy Ryan Stringer after a podium in the GT4 class tonight. And looking at who we've got left, I think it's only right at the start to bring in another driver who picked up a podium towards the end of the race, this time in the GT3. Hoyland. I don't know about you, James. I think it's only right we get him in next.
Get him in. Get him in.
Because another great drive from Matt tonight. The DXT car onto the podium. Matt, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Abby.
Good stuff. Well, first of all, congratulations on the podium. Talk us through that kind of like last 20 minutes of the race, because we were talking quite a lot about how you were going to be approaching that battle with Will Soper towards the end. You know, would you try and really push for it? Would you hold back that little bit more, wait for a mistake? Because there were a couple of mistakes from Will in the end. How pleased were you that the track opened up into the final corner on the penultimate lap?
Yeah, I mean, Will made it very easy for me in the end. I was expecting a fight. To be honest, the end of the race was probably the least stressful part. There was a whole thing on the first stint where I didn't realise that I needed to get the extra lap out of the fuel, and then I was fretting the whole way through, like, oh, I'm gonna have to make a third stop, and thankfully I didn't. But yeah, amazing battle with Will. That's by far one of the most enjoyable races I think I've ever had.
I mean, for the team as well, a P3 does absolute wonders. Where do you feel like this places you guys in terms of your aspirations going to the final 4 races?
I think as a team, we've got the championship lead. We've been up and there around it. We've got to be aiming to win it. Obviously, no disrespect to the competition. We've set a standard for ourselves now, and I know myself, I want to keep it up. I know Martin's very motivated to keep getting points. So yeah, hopefully we'll keep on this form we've got and keep that lead till the end.
James, great to see Matt back on the podium, isn't it? Especially in a tight battle. We haven't really seen too many late race battles so far this season, so to get on for the podium's great. It was.
Good evening, Matt. Good evening. And I hear the little bird tells me that you had a couple of spotters and race engineers in your ear. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a couple of strategies doing fuel the whole time. Yeah, but a huge shout out to Danny and Rob. They saved me a lot of stress. I could not have worked out the stuff they were working out while I was driving. Yeah, they really helped me out tonight.
That's brilliant, mate. And it is really nice when teams can come together, even if they're not actually on track with you, and contribute a bit of something. Did that play a part in you pitting early at the first stop? Because you seemed to pit a lot earlier than anybody else. Was that part of the plan?
No, that was the move from me that triggered the whole situation about the fuel. So me being me, didn't really think that much about how many stops or how tight fuel would be. So I didn't do any fuel saving at all in the first stint, and I was just a lap short of an extra lap of fuel. But I just completely forgot that because the fuel tank's limited, I would lose that 0.9 of a lap because I can only fill up to a certain amount. So when I came back out, then there was a panic because the first stint had brought me back out before we got under the hour mark. So the way I was going, I was going to have 3 stops. So yeah, from then, that's when they started looking at what I needed to get out of it. And as it turned out, just getting that extra lap, which was pretty comfortable in the end, was enough, thankfully. But yeah, they kept my stress down as much as possible because I wasn't very happy with myself after that first stop.
So you had to call in for backup. That's the reality.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
As long as Rob had only had about 5 beers and not 10, you're probably all right.
He did sound very coherent this evening, so I don't think he'd had that many. No,
he must be up early tomorrow.
Yeah.
Matt, brilliant. Thank you for joining us for interview. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, like as I said, massive shout out to Danny and Rob. They really did play a big part in keeping my head and getting a podium for the team. Shout out to Martin as well. I know he had a few incidents of his own from what I could hear. Obviously, I need to go back and log, but he kept his head. I know Martin can get a little bit hot-headed occasionally, but he did keep his head. He kept it sensible, and it's nice to be able to work together.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time at Catalonia. It won't be me that's doing the broadcast. It'll be our very good friend Chaz Draycott. So you might find yourself having a little chat with Chaz in a couple of weeks.
Well, we'll see, but Chaz seems to be a bad luck omen for me. Whenever he's commentating, something goes wrong, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Right, well, I won't tell him that. I won't tell him. All right, have a good evening, mate.
Thank you, guys. I'll catch you next time.
Take care, mate.
Matt Hall in there. P3 in the end in the GT3 class, and I think it's only right that in the GT3 class we had a winner who's waiting to have a chat with us, and it was Yannis Albert once again. If the computer allows me to, here he comes on his way into the booth. Yannis Albert, 4 race wins in a row. Welcome in, Yannis. Can you hear us first of all?
Yes, hello.
Well, how comfortable was that one? 45 seconds, over 90 minutes. Did you back off towards the end? Were you pushing towards the end? How did that one feel?
I was just doing the same as before on the end, but I had horrible traffic. Like, I think the last 4 laps I had traffic in the Porsche curves, and I'm not gonna do anything crazy there because why risk it? But yeah, the gaps in the GT4s were perfect, like 10 seconds each, 5 seconds maybe, to get them in every corner. So it was quite frustrating in the end, but yeah, still a comfortable win, I think.
Yeah, really with the teams championship is, I think we've got to look in terms of yourself and Bobby Moss, particularly in this championship where the teams has that little bit more emphasis placed onto it. Of course, you winning again, Bobby Moss finishing P3 in the GT4s. How what's the feeling like between you guys going to the final 4 rounds? Because of course you missed the opening couple of rounds. So you guys have really shown your class. You've swept up the order in terms of the championship. Do you think you can go all the way to the top?
On the teams championship, I think it's going to be quite tough. I know Quartash is, I think, on top before this race, and yeah. When they get good results, I mean, they're quick. They just need to get the consistent good results. And if they just keep doing that, I don't think we can stop them. I'm doing the best I can. Bobby's doing the best as he can. And let's hope we can do it.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for you. I mean, James, Yannis has pace that me and you can only dream of. It's from another planet in terms of us. I don't know about you, James, but I can't imagine winning 4 races in a row.
Well, I've only got 2 questions to ask Yanis. First one is, did you even break a sweat?
Yeah, I mean it's.
Oh, come on, be honest.
Outside.
Come on.
It is warm outside, so the room gets quite hot.
Okay, fair enough.
The air conditioning was on, but still. I mean, my pulse was. I tracked it today. It was a solid like 105 or 110 average. So it's not. My heartbeat is not like that chill.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you, Yanis. That was another absolutely amazing faultless performance, and there's nothing else to say really. I mean, class of the field, absolutely. Yeah, we hopefully we don't get any disconnects or whatever, but certainly kind of come in and put your stamp on the GT3 class. That's for sure. So my real question is actually looking at next season's GT3 season 9 on Thursdays. I see that you've signed up for that championship, and looking at some of the competitors that we've got joining for that championship, does that kind of spur you on and motivate you to get even quicker? And are you looking forward to that series?
I am definitely looking forward to it, though. I can already say I'm gonna sabotage myself a bit. So there's no way I can get into championship contention, because once I do, it starts to get more like a chore than fun, because I need to be good, and that's how I felt the last few seasons. So I'm just gonna try to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Be chill. Don't practice too much. I'm still gonna fight for it, but I'm not gonna go crazy all out.
Yeah, well, we've seen you before, Yanis, and I'm sure that come that first round, when they say green, all that may change. But yeah, okay, mate. Well, no, we're certainly looking forward to seeing you guys and all the new members in the GT3 series on the Thursday. But yeah, before we let you go this evening, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
Bobby doing a fantastic job. P3, very close to P2. I passed them on the, I think, final lap or second to last lap. They were fighting it hard. I'm looking forward to watching the replay, the broadcast. But yeah, he's doing a good job. Let's just keep it up for the next few rounds and hopefully get the title.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time, and have a good evening cooling down if you did break a sweat, which I don't believe you did. But and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep, see you soon.
Cheers, Yanis.
Yanis Albert there, the runaway winner tonight, and the last few weeks been so impressive to be able to see him march on forward. I feel it's wrong to not get a word from Anton Kalo quickly. He finished P2 in the GT3 field. We've had first and third. Only really right to pick up the P2 man as well. And Anton joins us. Now, Anton, can you hear us, first of all?
I can.
Yeah, perfect stuff. Right, well, Yanis Albert, a mile away, quite literally, by the end of the race, but you were very much ahead of the rest of the pack. You're pleased with the P2? I know, obviously, it's not really where you want to be as a racing driver, but in terms of the championship, you've not really lost out too much to Yanis Albert. You've built up a gap to everybody else. Where do your feelings lie after that one?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, obviously, yeah, P2 not great, but for the championship, if I finish P2 every race, I still win, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and exactly. In terms of fighting with Yanis Albert, he can win every race. If you finish P2, you still win the championship in terms of the drivers. So, looking good for you. And I mean, you are really pushing the team along in terms of the team's championships as well. A couple of weeks' time, we're heading to Barcelona. Is that a track that you feel like you can keep up these good results again?
Possibly. I mean, I know it and I own it this time, so it will be good for sure. I think. I have not driven lots of GT3 there, but I mean, knowing the track is like half the battle, so I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I know for James, it's never really nice to finish P2 in a race, but when you've got a driver that's so dominant, P2 is often a very good result to be, isn't it?
Well, I would take P2 for every day of the week, but I mean, congratulations, Anton. Still an absolutely flawless performance, minus Yanis, of course. It looked to me like this was the Anton Kalo back from a few rounds before. Did you do something different tonight? Is Le Mans a track that kind of you really like, or was it just that you'd kind of got the bit between your teeth and you were going to make a bit of a show tonight?
I mean, I think I started the championship putting in a lot of effort on practice and really locking in on strategy and doing a bunch of data collection and stuff before the races. And then the last 2 races, I mean, basically any race where I have not finished P1 or P2 behind Yanis. So I think the last 2 races, life gets in the way sometimes, you know. But now I had some time to like lock in, get like some, you know, actual practice, and I'm really glad to see that it paid off.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, it's brilliant to see you back on the podium, that's for sure. And I think when we get to the next tracks that are all a bit smaller and a bit tighter, hopefully it'll condense that field up a little bit and give you guys some chance to kind of get on the back of Yanis and give him a bit of pressure. But are you focused more on the Drivers' Championship? Because I know obviously you had a new teammate in tonight that was Thomas, who unfortunately I don't think things went Thomas's way tonight. But I guess for you the main focus is on that GT3 Drivers' Championship, is it?
Yeah, I think mainly for me, yes, I just want to win the GT3 championship. But then, of course, the team championship is like whatever points I get in the GT3s, I'll be able to add to our team for the team. And I don't think in the teams we are even in a terrible position. So I think with Tom, I will be able to hopefully claw back a decent result by the end of the championship. We still have a couple of rounds to go, so I'm hopeful.
Well, let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so. You certainly put in the effort and had the results and deserve it. So thank you for joining us for a quick interview. Before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
The brave stewarding at the Le Mans track that keep putting the cones back every single time when we go off track, just to the point where it's not an off track and you just barely don't get a slowdown penalty, and we keep knocking those like 4 cones off. I don't know if you saw on the
we do
live stream, but those guys, they are the real heroes. They keep putting those cones back even though the race is still going and there's cars going. So big shout out to them.
Big shout out to the iRacing stewards. Yeah, just make sure that Rob Mackay doesn't pretend it's him, because if not, he'll be sending me a bill for it. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in a couple of weeks' time at Barcelona.
Absolutely, maybe in P1.
Let's keep fingers crossed.
Thanks, Anton. Anton Kalo there, P2. Another really good result for the Finnish driver to keep him in the Drivers' Championship lead. You know what, James? I'm going to pass the next driver straight over to you, because we're going to get Andrew Fellows in. He's there every week, and I'm starting to feel bad for leaving drivers out. So we're going to bring in Andrew Fellows. And as Andrew Fellows drops us in, James, it's over to you immediately.
Good evening, Andrew. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're not too bad. We're not too bad. We had a reasonable night. The 90 minutes looked like it was going to go very long, and then actually went quite quick. So, but less about us and more about you. Tell us about your race and how that went.
To be fair, it was pretty lonely. I hadn't managed to do much practice because I've been away all week. But yeah, so at the beginning I did all right. I think I gained a few places, and then I think I started P20 and I think finished P19. I was running as high as like P17, I think, at one point, but it was all right. Me and Louis had another good battle right at the end, but then yeah, unfortunately, I thought I'm going to run out of fuel on the lap lap, so I pitted. As I pitted, Yanis overtook me, so that was kind of pointless. So that pit stop gave me a full lap of fuel that I didn't need. But yeah, I think it had been too tight. But it's one of those.
Well, as long as you've enjoyed it, mate, that's all that matters. And you're also running in the Danny Lee Porsche Cup on alternate weeks. So how's that been for you? I know it's not relating to kind of tonight's racing, but how has the difference been between the Porsche Cup and the GT3s, and which do you prefer?
I like both. the Porsche Cup, it's the lack of ABS can be a struggle, and you got to be obviously there's no ABS or traction control, so it can be difficult. I'm sort of mid-pack, so finishing around P8, P9 in class, so I'm there or thereabouts. We're doing all right in the teams. I think we're third in the teams at the moment, me and Martin. So we're doing all right. I'm just gutted that I found out that Spa clashes with the final of the Danny Lee Cup.
It does. Yeah.
So I'm in a bit of a conundrum now. Obviously, I would love to race Spa because I enjoy Spa, but we can't drop the final round. So I don't know what's going to happen, whether I end up getting a sub. It's probably Rob that's probably going to have to come to our rescue at Spa.
Yeah, because you're not teaming up with Martin in this championship, are you? So I know that Martin's already arranging his reserve driver, which allegedly is Rob Mackay, but nobody's supposed to know. But yeah, he's already teeing up his reserve driver. So, but because you're not in the same team, you can. I think is it Rob Smith that's your registered reserve?
Yeah, Rob Smith's my registered one, and he's quicker than me anyway, so that's probably going to help on the old point score. Because obviously we're doing all right. I mean, Pedro won tonight, so
yeah, he's done amazing tonight, hasn't he?
I've gained 1 or 2 points, but better than none. So you know, he's done really well. So that means I don't want to let him down, and drive Spa and not be, if I can get because I can get the reserve driver, it helps. Yeah, because I don't want to let Martin down either. So it's a bit of a conundrum.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one. Martin or Pedro. Rather you than me, mate. Rather you than me.
I think it'll probably I'll be racing the Danny Lee Cup purely based on we can't drop the round and there's no. And it's a no-brainer because I'm not fighting in the GT3 Championship for myself, but I'm fighting with Pedro, and because Pedro can have Rob will do a good job. That means obviously that the team doesn't suffer, so at least I've got that option.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to seeing Rob out because he's signed up for next season, GT3 Season 9. So it'd be good to get a bit of a sneak preview of how Rob's doing in the GT3s. But yeah, before we let you go, Andrew, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
Just you guys as usual. Flatline have been really good as normal, and some of the other drivers in the championship have been talking to like the likes of Andy and Anton and that. Really good friendly atmosphere. So thank you for everyone for having a good chat. And I suppose you for twisting my arm for GT3 last time I spoke to you.
Not guilty.
So yeah, we'll see how that gets on. But yeah, no. Thank you for everyone for such a good job.
You're very welcome, mate. You're very welcome. Well, look, have a great week, and I'll certainly be in the stream next week cheering you on for the Porsche Cup. So have a good week.
I'll give it a go.
We'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time.
It's going to rain, so it could be interesting.
I couldn't comment. Yeah, I couldn't possibly comment. All right. Cheers, Andrew.
Thanks, guys.
All the best.
Cheers, guys.
Andrew.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, fellows, there. Of course, P19 in the end today in the GT3 field, but always positive, as always, as we do know and love Andrew. And we're going to get one more driver in because otherwise I feel
we are. I like
he's
what
been
you've
there the
done
whole
there.
time. He's the last driver been there that he hasn't
Get him in.
interviewed.
Get him
And
in.
it's Andy Shell. So Andy joins us now. Andy, welcome in.
Hello there.
I felt bad leaving you in there. I know it's been about half an hour since you joined that interview booth.
It's all right, mate.
You're here
Don't
now.
worry.
Took us through that race. 90 minutes at Le Mans in 3 stints. Not always how you do it, but how was that race from your perspective as you were running in that mid-pack in the GT3s?
It was an interesting one. I don't know if you saw in the chat just after we'd finished quali. Both me and Nick, we had to make a setup change. We ran the car all day at the wing level and how it was running, and it was fine. In quali, it just wanted to kill us. We don't know why, but as soon as we got anywhere near a corner, it just went, nah, I don't want to do this, thanks. That was it. So we struggled with qualifying, and then we put a couple of clicks on the wing just to get it to settle down at the rear, which hurt us down the straight and meant we drank a bit more fuel, hence having to do a third stop. But it did mean in the second half of the lap, like through Indianapolis, I could keep it pinned. I was in sixth gear, and until I'd come off the inside curb, I was still on the throttle. So it meant if I was getting close to people coming up to there, I knew I could stick it on the inside and I could send it. As Ricardo used to say, lick it and send it. Which, you know, I had a good fight with Rob Austin over that. You know, it just, I knew in that, I knew he'd catch me down the Mulsanne straight in the first half of the lap. And then in the second half of the lap, I knew I could catch back up to him if he got past me. So it was a very tactical battle. And yeah, a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, I was sweating bullets at the end because I pitted and I thought, I won't put the extra fuel in. I won't put the extra lap of fuel that iRacing normally does as standard for you. Because it's saying it's only going to be 22 laps, it'll be fine. And then as we crossed the line for the 21st lap, and I was like, finishing 21st lap, and I was expecting that white flag, and it didn't come, and I was like, this might be problematic. Which is, I think, what Matt was having in front of me as well, because towards the end of that lap, I was catching him at a rate of knots. Unfortunately, coming out of Porsche Clubs, I got a little bit of a slowdown, so couldn't really challenge him into the Ford chicane, but it is. It's been a fantastic run for me tonight, and I really do love this track. So yeah, it's been good fun.
It's always good though, isn't it? That's the main thing. Even if you've not necessarily got, you know, a winner or a podium, having a nice time, having some fun. That's kind of what we want to hear, James. We talked about the field, didn't we, a lot during that race, and seems that Andy was one of the drivers that kind of fell a victim to that lengthening of the race, didn't it?
We did, mate. We did. Good evening, Andy, and thanks for jumping in and joining us. I think just before your last stop, I called it as one of your best runs in the season so far, and then on stream, I think live on Q, you dived into the pits, and I was like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, I mean, it looked like a brilliant night's racing, kind of, you know, from your point of view, and you were mixing it with all the guys that I think some in previous rounds you kind of just dropped off a little bit. So, I mean, was that the case for you? Was it kind of hang on in there, or is this a special track that you kind of always go well at?
I do seem to go well here. It does help that the another series league that we were racing in, should I say, that's wrapped up on Thursday. The last race for that was here as well. So I've been practicing this track for the last 2 weeks. So it does help. That I wasn't in the Porsche for that though, so there's a little bit of disconnection. But yeah, I've always gone well here. It's always been a good track for me. So it just suits me, to be fair. I've found that with other high-speed tracks, a bit like Watkins Glen and places like that, that they kind of suit my driving style a bit better than some of the more technical low-speed tracks. Hopefully Portimao will result in a sort of similar sort of thing where I can fight with the car, because again, I like that track. And again, it's quite a high-speed track. So I just tend to go well here. It's one of them that as we say, you do get them tracks where you go really well, and you get them tracks where you don't. And yeah, this one's just one of them that's working for me.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, I see that you're joining us again in GT3 Season 9. Is that just to renew your rivalry with Danny Weir, by any chance?
Partly, yeah. I mean, me and Danny had such a fantastic battle throughout the season in Season 7. I think Dara will agree with that, with him commentating on it and you racing in it. it was a really fun season. I was gutted to miss in season 8. Absolutely gutted to miss season 8. But like I said, there was the team had made commitments, so we honoured those commitments. And now I can come back for season 9. So yeah, I'm looking forward to fighting Danny again. There's a lot of names in the Evo class that I recognise that again. I'm looking forward to having that battle with. Me and Andrew were just talking. He's going to be in there, and we've had some fun battles on track in this series. So again, I'm really looking forward to it. Now I'm not going to lie, mate. I can't wait for it to start.
Awesome.
So
awesome, mate. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're super buzzing for it. So yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be great having you guys all back in, and there's a few other returning drivers as well for season 9. So certainly in the B split, which according to Rob Mackay, it stands for best split. So
yeah, don't blame him. He's
so
not
yeah,
wrong.
there's gonna be some great racing, mate, and we're absolutely delighted to have you and all your guys back on track with us. So, but before we let you go tonight, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, as always, and I do mean this from the bottom of our heart here. You guys putting this on, you give us an amazing place to come race. And as I've said to you, I know privately, you're one of the best leagues that we take part in. So to you guys, the streams are always brilliant. You know, it's always a friendly atmosphere. So that to the Quatermass team in general, I think we've had quite a few of them in chat talking along, which is great to see. Specifically for the drivers tonight, so Ian, Simon, and Nick. You know, some of you it might not have gone amazing for, but it's been, you know, I'm proud of you. You've stuck in with it and dug deep. And then to our sponsors, you know, they Let's Go Racing, and then everybody who's been watching. Thank you very much.
That's awesome, mate. Thank you very much for your kind words. It really does mean a lot. We put quite a bit of effort into trying to run it. We don't always get everything right, as everybody knows, but we do it with a smile on his face. And yeah, when we get something wrong, we put our hands up and say we've got it wrong. So I really do appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Just one last question for you. There's no R in Quatermass, is there?
No, it's Quatermass. Yeah.
Andy, you mean we've had it wrong all this time and you've never corrected us? Oh, Dara, what are we going to do, Dara? We need to hang up the microphone, mate.
I mean, Dara used to get it right in season 7, so...
Oh, God. I didn't realise. Hang on, but why is it what's Quater?
Quatermass, yeah.
The name comes from one of our team owners' favourite sci-fi shows from the 1960s.
Yeah.
The Quatermass Experiment. So when the team was set up after we split away from E-Team Brit, when that all fell apart, he went, do you know what? I used to race as this on my own. I'm going to race. We're going to race with this as my esports team that I'm going to set up for, because we predominantly have disabled drivers in our team. Because that's what our space is. We're a disabled driver focused, although not exclusive, team. So all of us are either, well, I say all of us, most of us are either neurodivergent, neurologically disabled, or have some sort of physical disability. And yeah, that's where it came from. He wanted something that for him spoke about what he wanted to do in the change, and that's where it is. So yeah, it's no R, it's Quatermass.
Quatermass. Well,
then,
Andy, that's not only has that cleared that up for us, I think that's absolutely amazing what you're doing as a team, and also you don't publish it and advertise it and kind of shout about it. So absolute fair play and credit to all of you involved, and I take my hat off to you. So yeah, and if we ever get it wrong again, then we need to have a pound box, Dara, and for every time we get it wrong, and we could tell Paul Welsh the same for next season.
Paul does know us. He does know us quite well. We've raced in quite a few things.
I know. He told me.
Paul's one. I will say this: my trophy for season 7.
It's got an R in it.
It's got an R in it, yeah. Which I said to because the guy saw it, they were like, it's brilliant. That's why a lot of them got excited about coming into season 9. And then they were all like, it's even more limited because it's got an R in it and it's spelled wrong.
Well, every day.
We had a laugh about that as well.
Every day is a school day. My goodness, man. I just picked up on it when you said the team name. And I thought, while you were talking, I thought, all this time, he's never corrected us. What a polite gentleman he is. So I thought, I need to call ourselves out. So there you go. Well, look, mate, thank you for joining us. Sorry we kept you waiting so long. It's been a really interesting to chat. So, yeah, if just on that note, if anybody is struggling and would like to race or is struggling to race, Andy is in the ESR Discord. So if you need any advice or help, I know that there is a couple of drivers that have got impairments of some description. So, yeah, I'm sure Andy would be there to give you a point in the right direction.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And then, yeah, if there is anybody, if you just Google Quatermass Motorsport as well, we come up there as well. So if there's anyone who's not in the Discord, although come and join the ESR Discord, you can, if you want to reach out to us there, either come to me or the team owner, Max, and we will always reach back out to people. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, look, have a nice evening, Andy, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Barcelona. In the meantime, have a nice evening, and we'll catch you then.
And you, gents, thanks very much. Bye.
Thanks, Andy. Andy Shell there. That quick chat turned into a Vanata, didn't it, James? In the end.
It did, Dora, but a worthy cause. A worthy cause.
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. And great to get a word from
And
Andy.
the fact that we've had his team name wrong for all this time just kind of blows me away. Blows me away. It makes the Kalle Leskinen leading elite look insignificant. So
I spent 3 months on Race Spot TV calling it Quatermass.
I know.
Motorsports UK.
I know.
Sports.
I was watching.
It's not Quatermass.
No. Well, look. Every day's a school day. We live and learn.
Believe it.
So we need to wrap things up. It's been a fantastic evening's racing. Again, apologies for if you've heard a bit of coughing and spluttering along the way. I have been muting the microphone to try and take it off stream, but unfortunately Dora's had to listen to it in his headset. So apologies for that, Dora. Anybody that's interested in getting racing with Evolution Sim Racing, feel free to jump into the ESR Discord, discord.gg/ESR, or scan the QR code that's on screen, or check the link in the description below. Our new Season 9 GT3 Championship is running on Thursday evenings. That championship is actually sold out. I can't believe it. 2 splits, 120 drivers, all signed up. But we do run a reserve list. So if you've liked what you've seen and you want to get on the waiting list, just in case people have to withdraw because of real life commitments or work or whatever circumstances they may face, then drop into the Discord and have a little look. European GT Championship running on Sundays. We have got a new championship that we are going to be launching details of very, very shortly, which should be very, very exciting indeed, where sign-ups will open on the 29th of June, so in 4 weeks' time. We've got the Danny Lee Porsche Cup that runs on a Sunday evening. That's broadcasted over on Apex Racing TV by the guys over there. And Danny seems to be having a cracking season with all of the Porsche Cup drivers, so check that out on the Apex Racing TV YouTube. And then we do have twice a week a free-to-join practice league, so anybody that just wants to get involved with the Discord racing community on iRacing, we've got a couple of sessions each week, one on a Tuesday evening, one on a Saturday afternoon, that you're more than welcome to come and get on track with us and have a bit of a giggle, ask the guys, about setups and help and advice or whatever you want. So round 7, moving on to round 7, Catalonia in 2 weeks' time. Unfortunately, or fortunately, as you may be thinking, I'm not available to do the broadcast, so I have very, very kindly been offered by our very good friend Chaz Draycott to do the broadcast for us. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Chaz and Dara on that. So that's a couple of weeks' time at Catalonia. Any thoughts for that circuit, Dara, before we just sign off?
It's going to be an exciting track. There's definitely going to be a few good places to make moves, and I think with the 1 hour format back, I think there's going to be some frantic action as well. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, it's gonna be a good race in a couple of weeks.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Well, all that leaves us to say is thanks for watching, everybody that stayed in the stream. If you could give us a like or a subscribe, that would be more than appreciated. It helps us promote the league and also the fantastic job that these guys do on all their liveries and for sponsors and also for the racing action. So I guess without further ado, we'll sign off for the evening and have a lovely evening, what's left of it, everybody. And I'll be back in 4 weeks' time. And you'll see Chaz Draycott and Dara Thacker in 2 weeks' time at Catalonia. So have a good evening.
For the upcoming right-hander, brake 30 meters later and ease off the pressure.
Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap times? Are you tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Alla, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. VRS data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today.